Excellent. Today is the 3rd of July and we are looking at our dog management policy. And it's great to see the councillors here. Councillor Connop, can you open us up today, please?
Tahia te ara e toko tēnei. Tui e runga, tui e rara, tui te nākau tangata. E runga mau morito, morito, ti hei moriora.
Thank you, Councillor Connop. Councillors, just remember to declare any matters of interest through the document. And I have one apology at the present moment from Councillor Benny. As you can see, he's not here. So I will move that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Mackenzie seconds that. All in favour? Any against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. Just to highlight to the councillors, the meeting today is being live streamed. As you can tell with the team, we're trying to make sure the microphones and everything are working properly, and I do encourage, if there are questions to be asked, please use your microphones. And members of the public, as always, you have 5 minutes when you're doing your presentations. When we come to that, I'll go through those again. No. We've got the agenda items in front of us, which is item 4.1, Dog Management Policy and Bylaw Hearing. And I will move that Council receives the feedback on the proposed dog management policy, the policy, and dog management bylaw, the bylaw, in attachments 1 to 6. 2, hears the oral feedback on the proposed policy and bylaw from the submitters listed in attachment 7. And 3, accepts the feedback received after the closing date of consultation in attachment 8. And Councillor Reid is seconding that. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to our submitters. As always, submitters, as I always say to them, people, you've got your time limit of 5 minutes. The bell will ring bang on 5 minutes, so we try to encourage you to finish your speaking before that so that you can allow any time that the councillors can actually ask questions of you. If you're finding hard to hear or if you've got a hearing difficulty, please let us know and we'll try to modify things to make that easier for you. It is not necessary to read your submission. All the submissions have been read by the councillors, so it's usually best to talk to your submission and highlight things that you particularly want to cover. The first, and just to highlight that there will be no decisions made today. This is your time where you can make your submission and we're hearing from you. If there are any questions, the councillors need to highlight to me so that I can signalise to you that you'd like to ask a question of the submitter, and we'll go through the process that way. At this point, I believe our first submitter is Margaret Crichton on page 15. I will let the councillors know what page the submitter's documents are on as well. So, Margaret, your time is yours. You go for it. Yeah.
Good morning, councillors. I'm here to talk about the proposed change to the existing all-year access hours at Irrititi Beach Tip Road, as well as the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act and Council's significance and engagement policy. The proposed changes at Irrititi is, and I quote from Council minutes, recommended due to multiple complaints regarding dogs in the prohibited area. My questions are, how many complaints are there? 5, 25, 50? Are they from the same small vocal group that don't want dogs on beaches? And what is the nature and evidence of these complaints? The bird sanctuary is a 5-kilometre walk from the Tip Road entrance when you turn right. There is a marker indicating the start of the reserve. You used to be able to walk up to that marker and turn back. That's a good 10-kilometre dog walking trip. Now, as a dog walker, you can't even turn right, only left, but cars and motorbikes still can. So are the complaints about people walking on that first stretch of sand or actually going into the sanctuary? Transparency over this matter is concerning. The bird sanctuary is at the Waipu Sandspit and river mouth and has a decent stretch of beach either side. Surely that's enough. Council discuss in their minutes, does the proposed new bylaw give rise to any implications under the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990, and states that there are potential limitations to the freedom of movement of dog owners when accompanied by their dog. However, staff considered that this limitation is justifiable for the following reasons. It protects the safety of children and minimises conflicts between dogs and other people. I would strongly argue that dogs on leads do not pose a threat to other people, and the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act is being broken by prohibiting me and my family, my dog, to public places. Council's significance and engagement policy. How do Council know that every dog owner has been contacted over these proposals? The email drop to dog owners on the 1st of May did not work, and very few received the email. The second email didn't work either. So many dog owners were not aware of these proposals. They only come up for consultation every 10 years. So it's vital that dog owners are fully informed. Council stated that dog owners without computer access could phone in their submission, and a friendly staff member would help fill out the form over the phone. Well, unfortunately, that didn't happen, and that information was taken off the website very quickly. So Council's engagement policy in this matter is questionable. The hundreds of hard copy feedback forms Council have received is testament on how unhappy dog owners are with some of the proposals. So in conclusion, leave Tip Road as it is. It doesn't need summer hours. Review your policy on no dogs to dogs allowed on leash, and make sure that dog owners receive a mailed out copy of any future dog proposals that could be in with the rates bill. Any questions?
Thank you very much for that, Margaret. Appreciate you coming with your submission. Councillors, is there any questions for Margaret? No questions from the councillors. I just want one clarifying question from me, Margaret. Your submission was quite clear in relation to that you're wanting this particular area to be changed. Are you specifically wanting it to be changed to people with dogs with leads only?
No. No, that's for all the other areas that you could easily go with your dog on a lead and not be any problem to anybody. This is an all-day dog exercise area as it stands, and the proposal is to change that and put strict summer hours on, which would be very restrictive to a lot of people who work. It would be restrictive to be able to go to a low tide well away from the dunes if these laws came in.
No, appreciate
and expensive to change all the signage.
No, appreciate your answer on that. Thank you very much, making it very clear. Thank you.
Just one question, you will.
Oh, sorry, Margaret. Sorry, we've got one question's coming up from Councillor Reid here, so have a seat again. Sorry about this. Councillor
Sorry,
Reid.
it was I just made some notes. Would you, just taking into consideration other beach users, would you be averse to on-leash from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m? Or?
Not on that particular beach. When you go to Irititi, people who don't want to be with dogs can go right. They have all the other dogs, they have all the other beaches at Bream Bay. So when you turn left, it's an off-leash dog exercise area. There is only 2 in the whole of Waipu area, the whole of the Whangarei area, you can go with your dog any time of the year. Irititi Tip Road turning left is one. The other one is Mayor Road, which has difficulty of access because the stairs were washed away in the storm. So only 2 places you can take your dog on Christmas Day in the whole of the Whangarei area. I don't want that taken away from me. Thank you.
Thank you again, Margaret. Appreciate that. Our next submitter is Patricia Fenton. Patricia, as before, you've got 5 minutes. Patricia's submission's on page 26. Your time starts when you speak, and if you press the right button on the microphone, that's it. Yep. And when you're ready, you can go.
Kia ora tātou. As you can see, ko Patricia Fenton aho. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the importance of dogs as companions, protectors, cherished members of the family. For some people, they're a reason to get up in the morning, to get out and walk. Working dogs, guide dogs for the sight-impaired, police dogs, have a valued place in human society and, of course, should be welcome everywhere. As many of you might be aware, there was a sudden increase in dog ownership during COVID restriction times. Dogs were a reason, again, to get out and a reason to have stimulation within the home. And dogs have been bred to be house pets, but by nature, as we all know, they survive in the wild by hunting and killing in some cases. They require many hours of obedience training to be domesticated, to behave in ways that are acceptable in human society. I walk in Barge Park every day, and there's one rule in the park, and I'm perfectly happy with that one rule. It says dogs must be under control. And while I have your attention, I'd love you to replace the ragged little sign that says that. So long as I see people with their dogs out enjoying themselves, the dogs relishing being in the park, having some freedom, I don't mind at all. I'm delighted. They look good, they're having fun. The only thing that concerns me is that those dogs are under control, that the moment the owner says, come, they're there beside them. And that's not that difficult. You have a bit of food, you have a ball, you have whatever that will bring your dog back to you. My big problem, and it was particularly obvious during those COVID times, is when dogs decide to rush a little old lady walking in the park for the good of her health. And people will say, oh, he won't hurt you. He bloody well already has. My heart's thumping. I'm terrified. I don't know that your dog is the sweetest, loveliest dog in the world. How would I know that? I've been told all kinds of interesting things. You look like my mother. Sorry. You look like my friend. That's why the dog ran up to you. You were carrying an umbrella. That was a recent one. Yeah, I was carrying an umbrella. It was my fault. You should have stopped. You should have carried on walking. He sensed you don't like dogs. You need to get help with your problem. He is under control. Yeah, but he's rushing me. He won't hurt you. And I know people who've been knocked over by dogs, who've fractured hips. I have a friend who was scratched by a dog, and she's 80, and she now has an ulcerated sore that will never heal. This was a great one. Oh, she'll circle you a few times and then come in for a pat. Now, these are word for word the things I've been told on my daily walks in the park. As I said, I don't hate dogs. I love and respect dogs that are well controlled, that know how to behave themselves, that respond to their owners, and responsible owners who make the best of their living situation with dogs as a companion, part of their family. We all know, and we've all seen it, the reports of damage that dogs cause daily. Recently, my family had 6 sheep viciously slaughtered by roaming dogs. Now, those dogs would have gone home to wherever they live, covered in blood. And I know this isn't the only occasion that's happened. So my submission is simple: to address the needs of this present time, Dog enforcement laws need to be stronger and more rigorously enforced for everybody's sake. No one needs to be afraid of yet another menace in the central city streets. There should be a safe haven for all human residents, free from dog droppings, and free from the risk that you will encounter a dog that has antisocial tendencies. That's all I ask. Respect dogs. They are dogs. They're not substitute humans, and they behave like dogs, and they will be what people make of them, but unfortunately, there are too many people who don't apply the kind of consideration that dogs need in order to live compatibly with humans.
Thank you, Patricia. Is there any questions for Patricia? Councillor Cooper.
It's a very quick one. Thank you, Patricia. Heard your submission. Well done. Given that there's these dogs out there, to control them the way you're suggesting, would you be happy to see council take on quite a significant cost to up the compliance officers?
I have some knowledge of what happens already with reporting dogs, and yes, I would be prepared to see. Having said that, I don't think it needs to be huge, but certainly this is something that is important to invest in. I haven't even begun to talk about kiwis, which are bordering on Barge Park, but I'm sure there's somebody else who's going to talk about, two people who will talk about that. This is about protecting our heritage as well as protecting human beings.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Peters.
Thank you, Patricia, for your submission. Taking into consideration what you've submitted on and that there are increasing numbers of kiwi adjacent to Barge Park, do you think that this area should be a dogs on leash area?
It's an interesting question. There was a sign out the front not so long ago. A new sign was put up, and there was actually the symbol of a dog on a leash. That disappeared fairly quickly. I personally don't have a problem with dogs being free so long as they are very well contained. They are very well controlled. But that's something for you to debate. As you know, there are sheep often in the paddocks there. I have seen people walking through with their dogs not on a leash when there are lambs in the paddock. And, I'm that stroppy old lady who says, hey, he should be on a leash. They know me. You're the person who tells us to keep our dogs under control. Yeah, that's me. Sorry. Well, not sorry.
Any other questions? Other questions? Patricia, I just got one last question to put at you. In relation to dog owners, you've already highlighted that there are some really good dog owners and there are some who aren't so good. Do you think we should be rewarding good owners? Like if good dog owners train their dogs, make sure they're well behaved, do you think there should be some rewards for that?
Well, I think listening to Margaret, yeah, there should be consideration for people who do control their dogs, who do care about their dogs. There should be possibly more places where they can go and have freedom. Yeah, good point.
Okay. Thank you. No other questions? No, thank you, Patricia. Appreciate the time you've taken to come in here, and thank you for expressing your view.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Our next submitter is Karen Whitley. Karen, your submission is on page 12. As before, Karen, as you've heard me say, you've got 5 minutes. Don't read your submission. Talk to your submission and highlight things that you'd like us to specifically cover off it. Okay?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm here on behalf of my dog. I too go to Barge Park. I live not far away and it's within walking distance. I got a dog in the first place because after an operation I have to walk. Anyway, onwards. I've spent a lot of time in Barge Park. I am there probably most days. It would be very rare that I'm not there during the week. And usually for other reasons, I'm away or I'm busy with something else. My dog is a Springer Spaniel and he loves to run. He loves to swim. At the moment, we're not supposed to go beyond the gate that leads up into the sheep paddocks without a lead on, but he likes to swim in the stream, and I know many other dogs go there to swim in that stream as well. I've never, ever seen any wildlife there at all. There are further on, but if you go further on, your dog is on a leash because of the sheep. And having said that, the sheep are not always there either. They go in 3 paddocks and they're usually in one or other. It's nice to be able to walk around Barge Park, and I really appreciate the fact that we have it as a public park. And I think you'll find the people that use it the most are dog walkers and dog owners. They're there every day. They're there all times of the day. They're there rain, hail, shine, rain, whatever. So I think we need to be able to have a say. I'm very aware of Kiwi. I'm part of the Bream Head Conservation Society, and I am passionate about our native birds. I would never let my dog, and I've never seen anyone else let their dog out of the restricted area in which they're allowed to go. I've been there in times when we've had people running through the park and orienteering the children. I've been there when we had recently a big running marathon event, and dogs were there. None of them were causing a problem. They were all behaving themselves really well. I have never seen a dog out of control in the park, and I'm quite sure probably there has been the odd one, but I've never witnessed it. Most dogs are very obedient, there with their owners. So my submission really is I would like, and I know many other people would like, to still have access to that stream. It's fenced off from the wetland area, so dogs aren't going to roam away from that. Apart from that, I'm quite happy with the way things are at the moment. But I would like the off-leash area to stay the same. Thank you.
Thank you there, Karen. Is there any questions for Karen? No questions. Well done, Karen. Well and concise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next submitter is Todd Hamilton. Todd's speaking on behalf of Backyard Kiwi, and his submission's on page 144.
Yeah, good morning, folks. Thank you for taking the time to listen to not just me, but everybody. Good to see democracy at work. Thank you for your work. Todd Hamilton. I'm part of an outfit called Backyard Kiwi. You may not have heard of, because we keep pretty local. We're all about our community at Whangarei Heads, helping them look after their kiwi there. And it's worked. It's been hellishly successful. We were going down and down and down to 80 kiwi in 2001. Last year when we counted them, we had 1,100. So it is hugely successful, and not just in the peninsula. Those kiwi are walking inland now. I was checking one the other day up behind the money factory. So it's working. Now, how the hell does it work? As you folks probably know, 95% of kiwi chicks get nailed by stoats. And that's what we concentrated on to start with, so quality trapping. And we took our chick survival, and it was measured by DOC, from 5% to 60% with quality trapping. Good help, eh? Problem with that is, luckily DOC carried on and did lots of research. After 3, 4, 5 years, you go back to almost 0% chick survival, because stoats get too smart for trapping. So trapping does not work in the long run by itself. So what we do to get victory over stoats, we pulse a toxin out the Whangarei Heads. We pulse it in it's len, ground-based and bait stations, away from stock, gets in the rats. Stoats eat the rats, the trap-shy stoats eat the rats, they die. Almost 100% effective. We call it Kiwi Saver. You've probably heard of it as 1080. So we're about to pulse it out there again. So that's how we get victory over stoats. You'd think that's what it's all about, but it's not. We could kill every stoat on the peninsula. We could kill every stoat in Whangarei, and we'd still be our Kiwi. There is something that has a far, far bigger impact on our Kiwi than stoats. Stoats can only take the chicks out, and Kiwi should live a very long time, 50 years. They have 3 chicks a year, or close to it, 150 chicks. You should be knee-deep in them. Stoats cannot kill the adults. What kills the adults, folks? Not cats. What are we here for today? And if you're going to say dogs, I'd say not all dogs either. Uncontrolled dogs. So that's why we're here. So if you want Kiwi print all over the place like we get at Whangarei Heads, you need dog control. Okay? It's crucial. It is the most crucial thing for Kiwi in Northland. Why are dogs such a problem? Kiwi stink. Well, I love the smell of them, but they stink like a dirty little dog. And so they've evolved without mammalian predators. So that doesn't matter that they stink. In fact, they use it to communicate with each other, and they've got a very good sense of smell. But our mates, the dogs, my dog, man, she can smell a Kiwi a long way off. Boom. The other thing, millions of years, because they weren't mammals, Kiwi don't have to fly, as you know, really weak chest, you probably heard. So all they need is a little squeeze. 90% or more of dead Kiwi we find haven't been deliberately killed by dogs, they haven't been savaged, they haven't been eaten, they've just been gently mouthed. Just a little squeeze. I used to get people to squeeze it, better not do that here, I'll get in trouble. It breaks the ribs, Kiwi runs away, drowns in its own blood. Okay? The third reason is people think the Kiwi are way up on the top of that hill there, way in the bush. No, they are everywhere at the heads. That's why we call ourselves backyard Kiwi. They love the farmland, they love the pine forests, they love the weeds, they really have, pampas is their all-time favourite. We get them on nesting on the side of the roads, they're right through. So that's where dogs come in contact with them. So what do we do about it? We got this scientific thing called a lead. You guys call them leashes, I don't know, well, lead, we've got a... But dogs don't put these on themselves, believe it or not. So it's a people thing. So we bust our butts out the heads to get people so that those of us with dogs, and I'm a dog lover, Patrick's a dog lover, and we support dogs in the right place, controlled. So that's what we've done. We have public releases of Kiwi, we tell the story, and forever we're enforcing. Please, positively, encourage people to take the lead. And that's what we do, and that's the positive side, and we do. It's socially unacceptable to have an uncontrolled dog. So they must stay home when they're not being exercised. We had a young couple move into the district recently, thought things were okay, let their dog out to wander. Within a matter of days, 3 adult Kiwi nailed. That's 150 chicks per Kiwi gone. Average life expectancy, Emma did the work on it years ago, in Whangarei Northland, where there's no dog control, 13 years as opposed to 50 years of breeding. You do the maths. So we do the positive work, which is working really well. We've got a wonderful community. And it is great that you guys can support us through this policy. So that's what we want. You're doing a good job at the moment, talking about the when there are dogs loose, that they quickly get picked up and there are consequences. And then there are appropriate places for dogs to walk. I walk my dog on the beaches without a lead where it's allowed, and on the roadside, and she's had a run already today on the lead. There's places, we do it. But what we can't cope is visitors and the odd naughty person letting their dog wander. It just knocks it out. Now, Vince, when I used to come to the old chambers with the old Merrill chain for Stan 7 off, and I gave it to Craig Brown, and I gave it to Pam. I'm not going to give it to you, mate. These are Kiwi that were killed in the Whangarei study blocks within a very short period of time, most of them by dogs. It's an indictment. You think each one of those is 50 years of breeding, 150 chicks. Not going to give it to you. Hopefully it goes back in the box and stays there, because we are the city of Kiwi and we are going well. Community groups, support agencies, DOC, NRC supporting, we're going real well. So please help us do it. So just like you to consider our simple submission: dogs on lead, dogs stay home. Pretty simple. Thank you.
Appreciate the submission there, Todd. Well done. And I know you've got some supporters and councillors here. I was waiting for Councillor Holmes to actually put his microphone on, because he's out the Whangarei Heads area and he was very careful there.
The trouble is, you're going to insist I ask a question.
I am going to assist you ask a question, only a question.
Is it true, Todd? Todd, you do great work out the Heads, and I see Todd out there, and
Councillor?
I'm getting there, and I just want to acknowledge the fantastic work that you do and your crew out there. So the question I've got is, thank you, is it true that in terms of Kiwi being put off breeding and discouraged to breed and displaced, that they will is the scent of a dog enough to discourage them from breeding? So even if the dog doesn't actually kill a Kiwi.
Okay, first of all, by far and away, the thing that discourages Kiwi from breeding is being dead. Okay, that's the big thing to stop in the first place.
Don't talk science to
me. There are some Kiwi will hold really, really hard on nests, particularly if they've been there. They nest longer than any other bird, up to 80, 90, 100 days. But they can be very jumpy, particularly at start with, and it's not just dogs, other people around. So I don't know if I'd be lying if I said I could get in a Kiwi's autistic head and say, yeah, they know there's the smell of a dog. But I've been handling Kiwi for years, and when a dog barks in the distance, they don't like it. They can be disturbed from nest. Saying that, I've seen a bulldozer rumble past, and we've had them just down the road from you nesting within 5 metres of the side of the road as cars go past. So, yeah, it's not a biggie, I don't think.
Okay. Thanks, Todd, for answering that. I've got Councillor Peters for a question as well.
Oh, yes, but I do say that, thank you, before I make my question. We've just heard from someone about letting the dogs off-leash in an area adjacent to Kiwi, and I do know there are Kiwi in that area and in that park. So I'd like to ask you about, leads. I hear you clearly on leads. What about training and muzzles? If someone was certificated and had a muzzle and couldn't bite a Kiwi, could they be let to run loose?
Now, I'm a strong believer in the lead for most places, and then those appropriate places like Barge Park, like some of our beaches, like the end of Par Road at Whangarei, others. That's where I take my dog for a run. She runs, I call her back when I need to. And if she's not on that, she shouldn't be near Kiwi. So we've got to encourage, there's so many how many dog owners in Whangarei registered?
Quite a few.
Yeah, and there's probably twice as many. If you start making it little bit of wiggle room, the Aucklanders are classic. They turn up at Whangarei Heads and go, oh no, I'm not, my dog's good, my dog's special. Clear cut, on a lead, or in the off-lead places where we can almost be sacrificial. It would be wonderful if we could build a fence that kept the Kiwi one side and the dogs the other at Barge Park and at places like Whangarei Heads. I think that's the easiest. Lots and lots of landowners do that. We have landowners on lifestyle blocks, the Whangarei Heads. One just spent $10,000 on a dog fence to keep the Kiwi out and his dog in so that he can still run his dog appropriately. So yeah, it would be lovely. There's a lot of good people out there with dogs, but there's some dickheads too, sorry.
Yeah. And your point's been made there, Todd. Well done with that, making that very clear and concise. We've got the message from you very loudly.
Okay, thank you guys. Keep up the good work.
Our next submitter is David Golding, and his submission is on page 21.
Good morning. Good morning, Council. It's the first time I've ever done this, so excuse my voice, I'm a little bit nervous, I think.
Just take your time.
So I've asked to speak at this hearing as I've ongoing concerns with the amount of roaming and dangerous dogs that are in and around Whangarei and Whangarei. I live on Whangarei Valley Road, up near the top, by the entrance to the waterfall. And we see roaming dogs on a daily basis. In Whangarei there were dogs everywhere. At my house we have dogs on every side, and quite often we will hear the neighbours' dogs growling, barking at each other and smashing themselves against the fence, trying to get at each other. At times, I have witnessed packs of dogs, actual packs of dogs, around 5 or 6 at a time, running around the road onto my front lawn, and have consequently tried to get into my garden. The back garden is fenced, but this does little to deter any large dogs from jumping the fence, as happened a few months ago. 2 large dogs went into my garden and attacked our rabbit. Quite frankly, they tore the hutch apart. Our rabbit never got over this and became temperamental and aggressive and eventually died. We so often see dogs on the street that our children have developed a fear of dogs. Sometimes, if they have seen a dog on the front lawn or road, they won't go into the back garden. Sometimes, my son has heard one of the dogs from the neighbours or in the area, and he will ask me to close the doors. This is no way to live in your own house. Since we have moved in, I have been rushed by dogs on the road. My wife has been out running and has also been rushed and chased by dogs at times. I have phoned Upon Guard on several occasions to report dogs in the area. I have been working in the garage and a random dog has just wandered in. In the past, I've been walking with my children on Whangarei Valley Road and large dogs have approached us, dogs that are twice the size of my children, and I have had to shout out to people to call them back. Whangarei Valley Road Reserve is a beautiful area. The park and the waterfalls, the green field and the park next to the eyesight on State Highway 1. Unfortunately, this area is rife with roaming dogs. In the past, I have been in the park with my children and I felt the need to arm myself with a big stick because the roaming dogs have been in the area. Again, no way to live. I regularly see tourists in this area, other children, and lots of roaming and unpredictable dogs. The Whangarei Facebook page regularly has posts on it from concerned citizens speaking out about dogs. I would like to read some examples out. Excuse the grammar. Number 1. So there are 6 dogs tied up to the car park curb at the information centre. They belong to the couple who are staying in a car, which has been there since Friday. 5 of the dogs are pregnant. 1 is the mother to 4 of them, who are only babies themselves and are pregnant. The father of the 4 is also the father of the puppies that they are carrying. The owner has been asking people to walk past for food. These dogs are all aggressive. We have witnessed them fighting between each other and the male owner abusing them. We rung the SPCA and nothing has been done. In capitals, please watch out for your children when walking past these dogs. They could bite. Number 2. Anyone own a brown dog on Mount Pleasant Road or in the area, please come get it. It's ripping into my rubbish, barks at my kids and attacks the neighbours' animals. I have seen posts on the Facebook page regarding children that are afraid to go to school as there is a dog in the way and they have just turned around and gone home. I have heard there is a new playground being built in the reserve later this year, sometime in the future. I strongly feel that there is an extremely worrying underlying issue which needs to be dealt with first before this playground gets built. Something needs to be done about all these dogs in Whangarei before the inevitable happens. More enforcement, more patrols, harsher penalties. Thank you for your time.
Look, thank you, David. Appreciate your submission there. A lot of heartfelt words in there. I could hear that as well. Is there any questions from the councillors? No questions there, David. Thank you for your submission. Thank you for taking the time. Really do appreciate it.
Sorry, I did.
Oh, sorry,
Councillor
Councillor McKenzie. Sorry,
just one
Councillor
question.
Holmes again.
So I appreciate that. Thank you. So the incidents that you've experienced yourself and your children have experienced yourself. So am I right in saying that you have reported them to council?
Yes, I have.
And did you get a response from the animal control people? I mean, was anything done when you reported them?
Yes, I have had Armour Guard come to my house on a few occasions. I think there was one time which I just couldn't get through. I don't know if it was out of hours. That was only once, but most of the time, yeah, they have been very responsible.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
That's it. Well done, David. Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Our next matter is Liz. Liz is on page 28. Liz, you've been sitting patiently there, so you know the way we're doing things.
Yes.
You've got 5 minutes.
I have also been to council
Yeah.
before with roading. I was very interested in listening to everybody, and it's changed my view of what I'm going to be saying today. We are a dog owner of 11 and a half years. We lost our lovely animal 2.5 years ago. Over that period of time, starting at 2020, we had 2 dog attacks from one neighbour, both reported to Armagard. Armagard came out. We thought things were settled. Then my husband was attacked again by the same dog, as has been my neighbour. Eventually, yes, thank you for shaking your head, because this gets worse. Eventually, council decided this was a menacing dog. I thought, thank God for that, because we've got young children in this little road that this is happening. So the dog was to be neutered in a month, muzzled out in public, etc. The problem with the dog is he's not socialised with anything. He's at home and then trying to get out. Less than 6 weeks later, I had Ms Denning from the council call me saying, Liz, you're not going to be well pleased. The owner of the dog had right to resubmit, which is fair democracy process, I accept that. But the outcome was the menacing was taken off the dog. The dog hadn't changed spots, hadn't changed personality, and sure enough, I was very upset, and I told her, I said, what is it going to take for this council to get a grip on dogs out of control? I said, they made the right decision, and now they've rescinded it because the owner said, I'll put it behind an electric fence. Not going to stop this dog, it's big. So I held my breath. And then about 18 months ago, a neighbour on the same little road with an under 5-year-old on her property had one of the dogs, there's 4 in this family of dogs in the one household, attack her dog while her child was outside. She grabbed the child, chucked it inside. She knew the background of what we'd been through. She has no confidence with Armagard, as I haven't. They lost two of my written statements. So she rang the New Zealand Police. So the New Zealand Police said that the dog is not allowed to be exercised in the paddock that it's not allowed anywhere near this family. They are so traumatised, they are moving. What I'm saying to council is, you need robust bylaws around dogs that are roaming, and I've heard sadly about what's happening in over here in Whangarei District. It's also happening rurally. And when decisions are made, don't just 6 weeks later change your mind because there's an electric fence. That's not good enough. So then we go to our lovely Tip Road, because I come from Waipu. I think I've seen you out there. Where I'm coming from here is that we had that dog of ours, our Bernese mountain dog, 53 kilos, on that beach because any dog behaviourist or any vet will tell you, big dogs need their muscles stretched. That stops them from being stroppy at home and stroppy anywhere else. Yes, they have to do a lot of lead. We're very, very lucky. We've got the dog whisperer behind us in my street. So off I went to Mags as soon as we got the dog. My dog was put on lead if I saw children or anything on the beach that I thought may find this big fellow a bit intimidating, and then he'd be off leash further down. There's plenty of room there for everybody. When Max died, a year later, my son got another Bernese. He's in town. There is nowhere in town for him to let that dog properly exercise for the dog's mental health and for his physical health. So where does he come? Tip Road, turn left, off we go. So he's out there 2-3 times a week, and when we have them, he's on the beach every day. Doesn't matter if it's winter, spring, autumn or anything else. He's out there, as are a whole lot of other people. Now, where the birds are concerned, because I didn't have a dog for a year, I did walk on the dunes. I saw stoats out there. Stoats love birds. I saw wild cats out there, but what I didn't see was dogs. Not one. And I'm out there 3 or 4 times a week. So my submission is around good, strong process for when things go wrong, to stick with them, please, and to have far better communication with the person who's put the complaint in. And I hate to say it, but I think it's time you looked at Whangarei's contract with you, and also do a review of how they're doing things and what they're doing things. I was dealing with, in the finish, I was dealing with Sean Holland at Whangarei, and he was very supportive, but it concerns me that when I got attacked, they sent the wrong person out, apparently. I didn't find that out until my husband was attacked. That's not good enough. That tells me they haven't got things really properly set up for these sort of incidents. It doesn't matter if you live in the city or you live out rurally. We want good dog rules, and we don't need taking non-leash on Tip Road. We've got nowhere else to put them. Waipu, One Tree Point, Ruakaka, huge influx of Aucklanders since the pandemic. Langs Beach has got lights all over it at night time. It never used to. Up in the Brendurans the same. So please listen to these people. We need that off-leash, most definitely. Absolutely.
Thank you, Liz, for your submission. I'm just checking if there's any questions from the councillors. I just have one question for you, Liz, in relation to the dogs. Do you think there should be a limit put on how many dogs people can have?
Yes, because four is a pack.
Okay, so what do you believe the number should be?
I think it only should be 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, Liz. Do you know if that particular instance was escalated to the Objections and Exceptions Committee, or was it done?
Haven't a clue, because I wasn't told, and that's the other issue. The person who makes the complaint should be in that loop all the way along and out the other end. All I got told by Miss Deming, and she was very, very good on the phone, I have to say, was that, because I said, well, what the heck has gone, what's happened? Have they moved the dog up north, or has the dog died? And she said, no, none of those things have happened. She said the owner had agreed to put an electric fence around the dog area at home. That doesn't always stop a dog. It sure as hell doesn't stop a cow going through my electric fence. This dog could easily jump it. Well, as dog owners, we went through process, as Mags will tell you, of the Kiwi people coming out and training our dogs not to go near the Kiwi with the stimulation. Somebody here will be able to tell it more. So, I have no faith that that family is not going to have yet another incident. Absolutely none. 2 with me, 1 with my husband, 1 with one neighbour, 1 with another. 5 major instances. And when that dog went into my husband, who's not a wimp, anything but, he came home and he said, "Oh God, Lizzie, you must have been terrified." And from that point, we always took my grandfather's old walking stick so that I could, but then I just stopped going. The caravan people, the Grey Parade, go to Urititi to exercise their dogs. The walkers and the hikers that used to come down through the Brendurans down to our road don't come anymore because they know they have been told to be very, very careful, so now they don't come. The local GP, Dr. Roblin, used to bike up there. He now doesn't bike up there because he got approached by the same dog. What more can we do as a community to get these sort of issues looked at properly?
Thank you. I think probably that one could be looked into further. Yeah, thank you.
Look, Liz, I'm not seeing any other questions here, but thank you very much for taking time to come in. Look, I can feel the
I love
tension.
dogs.
Yeah.
I'm not anti-dogs, don't get me wrong. We've had a Newfoundland, 2 Bernese in our family, and a Golden Retriever, my blonde tart. So don't get the impression that I'm anti-dog. I'm not. Absolutely not. But they have to, for their mental health, they have to be able to run. That's in their DNA. Whether they're little, as my husband calls them slipper pippers, or our big fellow who's a gentle giant. Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming in, Liz. Appreciate you taking time. It's really cool.
And we don't go up to the Brendurans now, although we could with a permit from the forestry, because I understand the Kiwis, Yahoo, are starting to move further in front. So the locals are very respective of the Kiwis and the birds down on the beach. You know, we just don't let our dogs roam on the... I know people, tourists and holiday makers are another thing, but we've also got to have better signage as to what we're allowed to do and how far up the beach to go, all of that. I was proactive. I ran the council. I even got the map off the computer, but it's still on the computer, it's still quite hard to actually figure unless you've got a GPS on your phone as you walk along as to how far you really can go. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, Liz. Thank you very much. Yeah, cheers. Our next submitter is Nolene. Nolene's been sitting there patiently as well, so I've
got some handouts.
We've actually, yeah. Thank you, Nolene. So you've got 5 minutes. You heard submissions on page 27. And you've been sitting there, so you know the process.
Yes, I do, thank you. Yeah. So I'm a permanent resident at Bland Bay, Tupuhuria Bay, and at the far reaches of the District Council area. We have a lot of dog issues out there. A lot of dangerous breed dogs and continuing to be bred. Dogs wandering. As recent as 2-3 days ago, a dog worried a group of goats and attacked a big piece of cattle. Our roads are quite unsafe to walk on because we don't really know where the dogs are at any one time. So, you know, if you're a dog owner, you're actually really restricted about where you can take your dog. On the other side, we've got quite a substantial bird population. We have dotterels and oyster catchers. In the actual Bay Area, we have kiwis on the 2 peninsulas, one at the north and one at the south. Those 2 areas are very clearly defined. The one to the north is owned by the iwi, and it's not... While the people tramp up there, it's not that accessible. The one to the south is owned by DOC, and it runs over to Pururi Bay. Locals report that they do have some issues with roaming dogs sometimes over there. However, you know, that's DOC's responsibility to sort out. So on the bays themselves, on Bland Bay, we used to have dotterels nesting along the whole area of the bay. However, in the last 4 to 5 years, the weather conditions have changed substantially, and the dotterels have learned not to nest in the upper reaches of the sand on the beach, because pretty much every month we get tides going right up to the grass now. So they've learnt to nest over in the paddocks or on the Tupuhuria Bay. So we're not seeing dotterels nesting on the beach. We are seeing them on the beach at the moment down towards the southern end where there's boat access and the camping ground is. We're not seeing them at the north end of the beach, basically because Cyclone Gabriel took away all the tuatua beds. So we're not seeing even the oyster catchers along that end of the beach. And the oyster catchers aren't actually eating the oysters off the rocks either. Possibly because of the runoff from the pine forests that are up on the side. So we put in a big submission from the locals in the bay to have access for dogs on the lead on Bland Bay Beach. And thank you to whoever put the draft bylaw together, that we have got some access now, and it's largely in front of the camping ground. So I've given you some maps, and the first one just shows you what we got from the dog bylaw, but on the second page, somebody from council sent me out this nice map, so I thought I'd share it with you. You can see that the council are planning that we can have access between basically where the boat ramp road goes down and Whakaturia Avenue. That's where all the housing is. That's the biggest part of the beach that's used extensively by people, particularly over the holidays and from the camping ground. And that's fine, and we thank you for that as well. We also have an area now, the Logan Nix Reserve, which is council land, being designated as an off-dog lead area apart from over the Christmas, from December through to the end of January, which once again is fine, except that area is used extensively in the holiday period by children. And we have a first aid centre on that piece of land, and we have an informal landing zone for the helicopters behind the first aid centre. So I do have a concern that when we're bringing the helicopters in, if I have to round up dogs and chase them away, because I do most of the first response out there, so that could be an issue. I think it's manageable, but I just wanted to table that. The locals would like, however, if we turn to map 3, to extend the area on lead for dogs on the beach. So at the moment it finishes at Whakaturia Ave. So north of that runs down to a stream, and there's a private property, big pine forest farm property owned by the Drinkrow family, and there's a reef at that northern end. We'd like to see that area extended down to that stream. The reason for that is that the dotterels aren't nesting down there. They're not even really feeding down there. I saw maybe 13 in April. That was for about 3 weeks, but haven't seen them since. We have. We're also seeing that the oyster catchers aren't down there, although they're not protected. We're seeing that they, in fact, the dotterels and the oyster catchers are over on Tupuruia Bay, where there is access for dogs for the whole bay on the leads. However, if we go to Tupuruia, for me particularly, with being short, access is extremely difficult. There is a walkway on map 2, which runs down between some private properties, and it's a designated council walkway. However, at the end of that walkway, there's 3 metres that are dockland, and it's very clear on the maps that dogs are not allowed on the dockland, including that area at the end of the walkway. So, and then with the tides and so forth, the bank's been eroded away, so the stepping down is about this much, and when you're short and you've got a little dog, it's quite dangerous. The only other access to Tupuruia Bay that's public is Puni Road, and I think some of our councillors, such as Scott, understand that we've had some major issues with threatening behaviour at the end of that road, and the locals avoid going down there because it's very unpleasant. So the Tupuruia Bay, unless you actually have a property on the bay, it's actually very difficult to get down there to walk your dog. So we'd like to see that we extend the area that the dogs can be walked on a lead down north to the stream before the Drinkrow property, because that's the only place we've seen any birds nesting in recent times is in front of their property, because there's quite a big area of sand there. We believe that it's not going to put the dotterels at risk. We believe that the dotterels are far more at risk from the cars and vehicles that are driving along the beach, the motorbikes that are doing wheelies along the beach, and the horses that are riding along the beach are just as much of a threat to any birds on the beach as dogs on the lead. So,
Nolene, your time's up. The bell has rung.
Yep, thank you.
So, is there any other questions from the councillors? Councillor Harding.
Nolene, mihi atu ki a koe.
Hi.
We have just in regards to your map here.
Yeah. Which one? The map?
The
Which number?
second one,
Yep.
are you asking for extension to go to the right of where you've got the boat access?
No,
The
left.
other way?
Yeah, so
You wanna go the other way?
it stops just down here. We're asking for it to go north. So left, right is south.
South, left,
And
left,
we're
other
asking
way.
for it to go north because south is getting round to the farms where there is a possibility of kiwis being.
Kāpai. Just through the chair, we were out at Tuparihuia a few months ago with council and our hapu representatives, and they were concerned about the erosion of the beach and the exposure of ko iwi, which you have mentioned there. So do you think that extending that area where you want to walk is an area that might be sensitive to those things?
No, I think it's more to the south where the bay goes around. That's where the most of the erosion and the bones are coming through. They do get washed up, and I found them in the water in the northern end of the beach, but I haven't actually found them physically up on the beach. I've found them actually in the water, and it's difficult to tell, but the biggest Urupa area is on the southern side. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those questions. No other questions? Nolene, well done. Thank you very much for your submission. Thank you for bringing in the pictures as well. That's good to help. Our next submitter is Emma Craig from Save the Kiwi. Her submission's on page 65.
Kia ora koutou, everyone. Ko Emma Craig, taku ingoa. And yes, I'm here to represent Save the Kiwi, who is my employer. I have a dual role for Save the Kiwi. I'm the Northland coordinator, so I'm based here in the Whangarei area, and I've been working with Kiwi here since the late 90s. And then I also have a national role for Save the Kiwi as the dog specialist, so I look nationally at the issue of dogs being a threat to Kiwi, right across the country, and part of that is looking at bylaws and comparing and contrasting bylaws from all the different districts. So yeah, you'll see that that's probably come through in my submission. And I feel like I'm going to be repeating a lot of things that Todd in particular has already said. But yeah, I just want to touch on the physiology of both Kiwi and dogs. So dogs have like uber sensitive smell. Some scientists estimate up to 100,000 times better than ours. So you've got this dog who's very driven by their nose, and then you've got a bird that lives on the ground that is very smelly, as Todd touched on, and has really no defences against mammalian predators. So the combination of dogs and Kiwi usually ends up pretty badly for the Kiwi. But we know that with good dog control, and again, this is a theme that has come through so much, I've heard from the other speakers today, that Kiwi and dogs can both thrive really well. So, I guess my submission is around making sure that the control of dogs isn't removed in the way that it's worded in the current bylaws. I've done an analysis on all the bylaws throughout the country in terms of how well Kiwi are protected in the wording, and currently Whangarei sits at the top because that wording is expecting dogs to be under control at all times. It's well spelt out in the current bylaws, and there's some of the bylaws only ask for dogs to be controlled at night. Our ones are at all times. So yeah, it sits really highly, but removing that wording, I think, would be detrimental. Additionally, I've asked for some consideration to be given to the number of dogs per property, because that's another way that Whangarei really stands out when compared to other districts that we don't currently have that consideration. There's a lot of positives for that, not just for Kiwi and other wildlife, but for the wider community, and I know we've again heard a lot along those themes already today. I think that's pretty much summed it up.
Look, Emma, thank you. Thank you very much for coming in. And I do understand when your submission is very similar to Todd's one and comments on the same sort of things. And I know he did a very good submission on that. You've got Councillor Peters who'd like to ask a question.
Yes, thank you. I hear that we're doing well and you'd like to reduce the number of dogs. My question is, has anyone in any place included in bylaws the need for training of dogs that are likely to pick up a kiwi and squish it?
So I just want to clarify, I'm not asking that there be a reduction in the number of dogs. I think dogs have a very valuable place in the community, and I think we just need to balance the needs of dogs and dog owners with the needs of wildlife, and there's space for both. In terms of a dog that is likely to pick up a kiwi, any dog has that potential, from the smallest to the biggest. Any dog with a nose, which is all of them, and as Todd touched on, it doesn't need to be an aggressive encounter. So it's really not about the breed of dog or even the temperament of the dog, it's about where that dog is. So if they're somewhere where there are kiwi, like walking a dog on a lead is a really good way to protect kiwi in that area. If a dog is allowed to roam or to be out of control, then yeah, any dog can be at high risk.
So focusing on the bylaws, do you think there's any merit in insisting that dogs have kiwi training to get their registration?
I'm actually the national lead for kiwi avoidance training. And yeah, we had a big hui last week, an all-team hui, where we talked about pet dogs, and so kiwi avoidance training was set up primarily for dogs with jobs, so for hunting dogs and working dogs, farming dogs, and over time more and more pet dogs have come through. There's certainly some instances we're arguing that pet dogs doing the training can be helpful, but in the vast majority of cases it's probably it's certainly not the best first choice, and may not be a good choice for a number of reasons. One is that with a well-trained, let's say a well-trained pig dog, they know that they're allowed to go after pigs and they're not allowed to chase hares or possums. So they've already got this concept that like this thing is a yes, this thing is a no. The training is just adding kiwi to the no list, but they've already got the concept. A lot of pet dogs don't have the concept. The training's only for 10 minutes, and it's then repeated 6 monthly and annually. But yeah, to expect a dog after only 10 minutes to get a concept that was otherwise foreign to it is a pretty big ask. Yeah. And then also it can give the pet dog owner a false sense of security around trusting their dog. So, you know, that the drive for a dog with its nose versus the vulnerability of a kiwi, we can't really trust them. So it's better that the pet dog owners don't think that their dog is somehow kiwi-proof when it's not. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that, Emma. I'm not seeing any other questions. Thank you very much for coming and thank you for taking the time.
No problem. Thank you.
I do appreciate your answers as well. Thank you. Tim, you're no stranger to the submission process. So you know the procedures, 5 minutes. And Tim's submission's on page 31. So again, Tim, don't read your submission.
I have absolutely no intention of reading my submission, and I do intend to stay well inside my time. In actual fact, I really only just want to, I guess, sort of stress that there were two parts to my submission, and I just wanted to really stress today the two of them, how they are actually interlinked. I want to pick up on an interesting point that Carol just made there before. There's a certain thing about when you sort of, I guess, bring a piece of compliance in to get owners to do certain things, the intention is very, very good. Unfortunately, the consequence or the outcome is often the reverse. And that, I think, is particularly picked up in where I really want to, I think, start with my second part of my submission, which is around challenging the cost of dog registration. We own two little pug dogs, $102 odd each of them, okay? Now, I don't get more than probably about $4 of value back from council for that registration, which is the cost of the tag and probably about 3 minutes of admin time for entering that in. I am paying for the well, I won't use the word incompetence, but I suppose for the arrogance of those dog owners who don't register their dogs, who particularly have menacing dogs that cause problems and that incur a lot of compliance cost to council. There is zero financial consequence to those owners. That's my problem. I am paying for them, and that is wrong. So I'm going to circle that back now to the first part of my submission, which is around, I want to thank council staff in particular for the work they did consulting around allowing dogs into the CBD. Great process. Really appreciated that staff came to visit us as business owners. That was a really good piece of work. And to my delight, the recommendation is to allow that to occur. Now, I want to obviously, add my great thanks for that, but I do just want to add the rider of saying, again, from a compliance perspective, you've got to think carefully about those people who will take the liberties of bringing large menacing dogs into the CBD. There's got to be a mechanism around controlling that, and that's for me as an owner of two very small dogs who are at high risk if one of these large dogs lunges and has a go, because my dogs will be dead. Simple as that. So I just really want to I guess, to really sort of throw the challenge back to council to say, from the value that we get as responsible owners in paying our registrations, I just want council to have a good hard think about, start your cost recovery from the people who are actually causing you the cost, not from us as responsible owners who do register our dogs. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim, for that, and it's actually a good submission on that respect. One of the things you've highlighted, I just want to clarify here, so are you wanting for the good owners to be rewarded in some way?
I'm not saying rewarded, but what I'm saying is, I mean, to me, it feels like, if I do a back of the fag packet calculation of what it takes to register a dog, plus a bit of fat in there, I'm thinking probably, for a responsible owner with a dog that has caused no issues to council, it should only cost about $40 to $50 a year to register that dog. I don't see why it should be 102.
How do you suppose that council can identify good dog owners?
Based on how many complaints have been registered about that owner.
Okay. No, good. Any other questions for Tim? No questions for Tim?
Just one.
Oh, Councillor Reid has a question.
For those with dogs that are proven to be an issue, what do you think the starting figure should be for a fine?
Look, I don't know, because I don't know what I don't know what your cost structure is from how you deal with that. I haven't bothered to do any research around that. I guess it's probably sitting in your report somewhere. But obviously you'll have a cost in terms of the number of compliance officers you've got, your pound costs, all those kind of things. But I'd be saying, well, that's where your starting number is. Work it backwards from there, and sort of figure out, how many incidents you talk about a year.
Okay, and Councillor Holmes has got a question for you as well.
Yes, so through the chair, just a quick question. So in Auckland, I'm aware, for example, that if you take a short course with council that kind of gives you a qualification as a responsible dog owner, you get a discounted licence fee. Is that the sort of thing that you would be advocating?
Look, possibly. I without sounding disrespectful, I'm not quite sure that council is the right organisation to do that. Through Dogs New Zealand and your dog association members, that would be the perfect vehicle for that. As I say, I don't want to be disrespectful, but leave that kind of job to the professionals, and those guys are the professionals. But that would be a very sensible pathway, yes.
I'm not seeing any other questions. Thank you for that, Tim. Thank you for the answers.
I told you I'll be quick. Thank you.
Our next submitter is John Gardner. Now, his submission is on page 179. John's no stranger to the chamber as well. So, John, as you heard before, you've got 5 minutes.
Indeed.
And allow some time for questions.
I've jumped the queue. I'm conscious that this is the graveyard slot just before lunch, but I'll try to keep it quick. Right, my submission is about Whangarei Mountain Beach, and it's on map number 9, if you got all the documents there. The submission is very simple. I would like the restriction, which is currently that dogs are completely prohibited, to be changed to allow dogs. But only allow dogs on a lead. And the background to this, which is already apparent from this morning, is that there are two groups of irreconcilable people in the district. We have passionate dog owners who really want more freedom for their dogs to run free in more places. And there are equally passionate and equally sincere and well-meaning people who say, excuse me, I don't want dogs jumping up at me and killing birds and all the rest of it. And it's really hard to reconcile these two, unless there's a compromise, which is what I'm suggesting, on my local beach, which is Whangarei Mountain. And the compromise is not rocket science, it's to allow dogs on the lead. So when we take Whangarei Mountain Beach, there are specifically 10 mentions of this in the submissions. 7 of them are from people saying, I want utter freedom to let my dogs run around off a lead. And there are 3 submissions saying, I want a complete ban. Do not let a dog anywhere near this beach. So I've come in with the 11th submission, which is, can we just calm it down, please, and let sensible people walk their dog on the sand on a lead. That's basically it. The detail would go like this. The reason why there is a ban currently is because apparently there are bird nests in the sand dunes behind the beach. Now, birds aren't stupid. They don't build a nest on the beach because there's something called the tide that comes in and out every day. So what we're talking about is stopping dogs going on sand dunes. So I looked at the 3 submissions for banning dogs, and all of them say the same thing. We don't want dogs running around loose off a lead. Fine. I then went to the Department of Conservation submission, which you'll find somewhere. It's a pretty long one. It's 3 or 4 pages, and it talks very generally about protecting dogs, but it explicitly says that the problem with dogs in coastal areas is wandering about off a leash. Yeah? There is no mention, even in the DOC submission, about any problem whatsoever with the dog on a lead. So I rang the DOC and I said, can I speak to whichever fella looks after this? And I did. And I said, no, blah, blah. And the official answer said, I must give you the department's view. Here we go. Where am I? Blah, blah, blah. The department's stance, he was reading it out, is to prohibit dogs on that beach. Yeah, I know that. Why can I not take my dog on a lead? And he said, I repeat, the department's stance is to prohibit dogs on that beach. Literally, there is no answer to the question, why can't I walk my dog on a lead on the beach? No answer. So I then went and spoke to somebody else at DOC. Happens to be somebody I know socially for an off-the-record informal chat. And what I was told was, look, so looking around, look, there's nothing wrong with a dog on a lead on a beach. The reason why we want a complete ban is because we don't trust people to do that. Now, thinking about it, that's the only reason, isn't it? There is no other reason than that you don't trust us to do what we're told. And that's really sad. So my submission is, trust the ratepayers, trust the residents to do the right thing. Because frankly, people who don't follow rules, they'll be doing the wrong thing anyway. In the meantime, those of us who want to do the right thing are prevented from enjoying the area. And there we go. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any questions for John? John, one question I posed to an earlier submitter, and I'll ask the same question to you. Do you think that good dog owners should be rewarded?
Not specifically. No, we all need to pay a licence fee. Most of us resent the fact that the licence fee is going to do things to pay for activity caused by people who don't pay the registration fee. But, that's just one of these things, isn't it?
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you, John. No other questions? Well done, John.
Thank you.
Our next submitter is Terence Walsh. Terence, you've just walked in the door. You've hopefully caught your breath. What I tell everybody is you've got 5 minutes.
Yes.
Allow some time for questions to be asked. However, the time is yours. Don't read your submission, but do to highlight the things that you want us to specifically go through, because we have got your submissions in front of us.
Good, thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors and others present here today. Basically, as you know, my name is Terence Walsh. I'm a ratepayer, and once again, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present my case on behalf, I'm sure, of many other ratepayers who may be thinking the same. I did some figures in relation to a number of issues in terms of the CPI, etc., and as we all know, it's been an incremental rise, an exponential rise over the past 5 years, from say 2016. And quite frankly, a couple that are on a pension or a single pensioner is finding it very, very difficult even nowadays to turn around and actually make a choice between, say, power and food. I'm not saying I'm in that position, but there's many in that community that are. A small dog provides great comfort to people who are lonely, but those people also cannot afford these rises that we seem to be having now every year, some within 5 to 17%. That puts such a burden on them that a rise in anything else, including dog registration fees, they cannot actually afford to do. And yet here we are. Everything has gone up, nothing has gone down, and that seems to be the cycle we're in at the moment. I did also some comparisons in relation to responsible dog owners around the country. Auckland charges $75, Wellington charges $70, Christchurch $60, and the far north $53. What I'm saying is, why can't Whangarei District Council and the Northern Regional Council see their way clear, at least for those that are on have a gold card, to see some reduction, even if it may be slight, as responsible dog owners? We all know that certain parts in Whangarei and elsewhere, what you have there is people that will never register their dogs. And these dogs are offensive. These dogs attack. These dogs maim. And I'm sure that even our good dog patrol officers won't venture into certain communities for fear of basically being victimised or attacked. So once again, us good guys who turn around and take the time out to register, put our names on the books, well, we're easy meat in terms of being able to find us anywhere at any time to check on our dog. So I find that, quite frankly, too onerous for a lot of people, and I think it's more to them I'm speaking to. We've already got enough caveats over responsibility for a lot of things here, and we all know that the money goes to a lot of good causes, and we can see the improvements around Whangarei itself. And to that, I guess the council is to be commended on what they've done to bring this city back into the 21st or 22nd century. However, we do have a problem with unemployment, and we do have a problem with people that are still living in cars. So any burden at all in relation, particularly to dog registration fees going up exponentially, to me is not on. And I would encourage all people to vote the same that are in the same boat. So I thank you for your time, and hopefully you'll see your way clear to make some adjustment.
Terence, I'm just going to check if there's any questions from the councillors. One question I have been posing to a couple of submitters is, do you think that good dog owners be rewarded, in other words, done cheaper pricing, and how do you think that they should be identified as good dog owners?
I think there's a lot of parameters there that needs to be looked at, but yes, I think responsible dog owners is classified in a number of the other centres, definitely. I think there should be some reward for that people that look after their animals, but also keep them in public in check. So yes, I think there should be some reward there, but what I'm concerned about, as I said, those that are more infirm, that can't actually be identified as a responsible dog owner, but still have that dog for the only comfort that they have. And I think that could be done on the fact of the gold card principle in terms of relative to age and position in the community.
Okay. Right, so next question we've got from Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Your Worship. So So thanks, Terence. So you mentioned some registration fees there, and you mentioned Auckland, and I asked this of a previous submitter. You may have heard me, but in Auckland, if you take a short course with the council, and you effectively get a good dog ownership certificate, you get this discount. So is that something that you would recommend or support that we maybe look at here?
I think absolutely. If it guarantees the fact that you are accredited responsible dog owner and it's a percentage reduction in the fee, yes.
Cool, thank you. And Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. Terence, thank you for that breath of fresh air in your presentation. What do you think should happen with owners who persist in not registering dogs and have multiple animals that are not controlled properly?
I'd like to think that there'd be some punitive action taken in relation to that, whether it be dog seizure, but I think you're going to get yourself into a whale of trouble if we start actually employing those sorts of tactics, because the people I try to be generalistic here, but however, we do know some of those dogs out there, good luck even getting close to the front door. So I think I agree, if you do see a dog wandering, then that naturally should be subjected to some sort of action. But in terms of actually turning up at somebody's property to see if they've actually registered their dog, well, needs a braver man than me to do that.
Appreciate that, Terence. Councillor...
I thought your haircut put you in favour of that, actually.
Councillor Olsen, Councillor Reid, please. Questions only. Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question, and it's more going on what Councillor Holmes has suggested, the good, doing the short course. Do you feel that responsible dog owners would pay to do that course? You're talking about how hard things are for certain people. This is just would be imposing, do you not think, another cost to them?
I think that, quite frankly, should be incorporated within the registration fee itself. I don't think there should be any additional fee charged for actually doing the right thing.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Any other questions from the councillors? No other questions? Thank you, Terence. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Councillors, it's just on 12:24. We've got no other submitters which have come up to at this present moment, so we will take a break for 15 minutes. A lunch break, this is going to be. Yeah. We will start again. Councillor Cooper? We're starting now, please. Okay, our next submitter is Mark Dominic, and you are going to be speaking, and your submitter is on page 82. Now, Mark, you probably don't know the situation here. The right button on here, you just press that and the speaker goes, or the microphone goes. You've got 5 minutes. This is your time. There's no need to reread what you've written, because we've already got in front of us. We encourage people to speak to it and highlight points that they want to cover over. Do allow time for councillors to ask questions.
Good afternoon, my name's Mark Domican. I'm here representing myself and Orinoco Domican, who's also a submitter. But I suspected he wouldn't be allowed in because he's a dog. Okay, you should have all received today another form. I was given a revised map by a person from the council, which is on the right-hand side, which clarifies the map in the original proposal. What I and Orinoco would like is the ability to enter the beach from any of the 5 entrances from Marsden Village, whether it be on leash or off leash, especially during the summer period. Orinoco loves going into the water and swimming. In fact, when he goes swimming for at least an hour. And sometimes he goes so far out you can't see him. I'm also representing many of the residents of the village. Most of the village residents have dogs and they like to take them on the beach. What your proposal is stopping us being able to take them onto the beach from any of the 5 entrances. To enter the beach in a legal access, we would have to go all the way up to Marsden Point to access the beach with our dogs. Because where that red line is on the map on the left is where you're stating that dogs will be prohibited south of that point. But to access the beach, you have to access it south of that point. So that makes it impossible for a legal, responsible dog owner to enter the beach with a dog over the summer period. I and Orinoco are proposing that you move that red line to basically the last of the entrances so that the residents and also visitors, there are many visitors who come with their dogs to walk their dogs on the beach. And I've been at Tahi Walk with either Orinoco or Bronte, who's another Briard, who just passed away 2 weeks ago. She wouldn't have been able to enter the beach at the very first entrance since the storm because it's too steep for her. So she would have needed to do the Tahi Walk entrance. Yes, so that's our proposal, is that we move that line to the Tutiki Walk entrance. And all the time I've been there, we've had no problems that have heard of with dogs on the beach over the summer period. And I go there every day over the summer period. So Orinoco and I asked that that line is moved further south. That's our submission. But I'd also like to point out that when I looked at the revised map, the racecourse entrance, which we don't use, is used by many residents in the new subdivisions in Ruakaka with their dogs, to take their dogs on the beach. You're now prohibiting them from entering the beach from that point all year round. I suspect you haven't got any proposals from people about that because most people don't respond to these council chat submissions. In fact, the people at the village that I spoke to, they said they've given up talking to the council about the cars and things about the problems of the dunes, about people destroying the dunes and cars destroying the dunes. They've given up on it. But I haven't. So that's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate your time coming in here. Just one question which we have received from other submitters, so I just want to put it to you, is there's a request to have the area to have it allowed for off-leash all year. Is that something that you'd prefer, or you're quite happy with the way?
I would prefer it off-leash all year.
Yeah.
In fact, most, if not all, of the people that we see on the beach tend to have dogs, a high proportion. And the people who don't have dogs, I've not had any problems with them. Mind you, I've got a very lovely dog that people like to actually call and pat.
Okay, cool. Any other questions for Mark? No other questions? Thank you, Mark, for taking the time to come in.
I do have a question.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Holmes, sorry.
Just out of interest, did Orinoco have any help in the submission, or was this entirely his own work?
Regretfully, his paws were too big for the keyboard and needed me to type up a submission.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate your time. Thank you for coming in, eh? Our next submitter is Shirley Neal. Shirley's submitter is on page 88. Shirley, you can come on up. You've got 5 minutes, Shirley, so don't read your submission because we've got it there in front of us. What we do want you is to highlight things that you want to talk about.
Thank you very much. I'm Shirley Neal, and I've lived at Whangarei Point for 30 years, and the population has exploded, and so has the dogs too. My biggest concern is the dog poo that's been. I go for a 35-minute walk every day, and on 6 walks, 35 minutes, I saw 60 poos. I've seen them in the putukawa tree on the pathway. People have put their poo bags by the light on the street, and I've seen them buried in the banks on the beach. So that's my biggest concern, is what can we do about that? The other one is we live on the beach, and I see so many dogs not on leashes chasing seabirds, the spoonbills and the seagulls, and I feel that they're diminishing because of the dogs that are not on leashes. There are dogs on leashes, of course, but the ones that are let loose just chase the birds. And the other big concern is that I often walk when the children go to school, and because there's dog poo on the pathway, they're walking, they're cycling, they're on scooters, and on odd occasions there's a dog without a leash running between the children. I just feel that there's an accident ready to happen. I wonder what who is in control of this problem, because it is really a big problem out our way. I did hear somebody that was at Orewa and noticed that there's dogs on leashes. She never saw one without a leash, and she saw no dog poo. So I just wonder what Auckland's doing to overcome that.
Thank you.
And clear signage. Our signage is not clear. I'm just wondering, from the yacht club along to 38 Whangarei Point Road, it appears that dogs are prohibited from the yacht club to about 189, but what happens after between 189 and 38? I'm not clear on that.
Is that all you'd like to cover off, Shirley?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay. I've got a question here from Councillor Cooper.
Hello, Shirley. Nice to see you. In some areas around the district, we have little bins for dog poos. Is there any around your way?
No.
No. Okay. You should never have left Waipu, you know that.
Councillor Cooper, questions? Shirley, doesn't look like there's any other questions in here. But thank you for your time. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for expressing your view. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Our next submitter is David Lowery. David's submission is on page 105. David, you're no stranger to the chamber here. You know the situation.
No big barrels of brandy?
No, nothing like that. You've got 5 minutes like you always have, and allow time for the councillors to ask questions.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, when you take a look at the photographs, I'd like you to take into account that they were taken in the last few weeks. So this is kind of like the situation on the ground currently. One of the important things I'd like to draw attention to is clause 6.1, and I will read this out just to reiterate the need to make this adjustment. On the Facebook comments where dog owners were concerned about the changes being made to the bylaw, someone said, he's running 5 farm dogs down the beach. Okay. Possibly in the dog prohibited area south of Tip Road. The way clause 6.1 is written makes it sound as though that you can take a working dog into a prohibited area. I'd like there to be an insert that clause 6.2, clause 6.1 does not apply to any working dog, and insert with a functional need to be accompanying a person in a dog prohibited area. Otherwise, people can say, well, it's a working dog. It could be a pig dog, could be a cattle dog, and it could be just a dog that's not actually a working dog, but a working dog breed that's just household pet. Because that would provide sort of enough wriggle room for people to take working dog breeds into dog prohibited areas. Another point I'd like to make is about signage. There's virtually no signage down at Tip Road. We know we've got a problem with vandalism. We really need to, if we're actually going to have signs that are vandal proof, they really need to be set back from sort of obstacles, like 44-gallon drum full of concrete, or several of them, so that the signs can't be rammed by four-wheel drives. Set back from that, and then the sign would have to be built virtually so it's bomb-proof, because they, with battery-powered tools, people can come in with chainsaws, grinders, and it's not uncommon to have these signs shot at with firearms. So there are ways of constructing signs to make them sort of bulletproof and bomb-proof, and I'd actually suggest that they're made out of something like about 12 mil thick steel plate, which is, laser cut, and there's lots of beautiful designs of laser cut signage, and have the real basic 3-word information there with a website address so people can get further information off their phone, which everybody carries if they need any further information. Otherwise, we could just have a whole lot of sacrificial signs, dirt cheap, but have a stockpile of them that are easily accessible to volunteers every time they get smashed or burnt or run over or whatever they do to them. Just go and get another one and put another one up there. Because the rate of vandalism sort of exceeds the capacity of contractors to keep up with it. So if we can sort of have them available to volunteers, that would be good. And also too, to highlight that a vehicle in a dog prohibited area that is in a vehicle is actually on the beach. Even though it's in a vehicle on the beach, it's actually on the beach. And I think that's covered in the Dog Controls Act. Because what does happen is people, drive down Tip Road, turn right to head down they go right through, and there's a vehicle exclusion zone there now for 2 kilometres north of the river mouth. There's no signage up for that yet. It's only 6 months since that's sort of been adopted. But nevertheless, they're still taking vehicles in a dog prohibited area. Anywhere south of Tip Road's a dog prohibited area. And if they try to use that excuse, it's like I've talked to people down in the refuge with a dog in their vehicle. It's, but it's in the vehicle, it's all right. But if there's no one monitoring the wildlife refuge, they'd have let it out and let it, romp around and, do what dogs do. So if that aspect can be emphasised to the public, that would be helpful sort of right throughout the whole district. Enforcement's a little bit patchy. The animal control comes out for about 6 weeks or 2 months or something during the summer. But there's quite a lot of activity, like Matariki was just a vehicle fest down on the beach and in the dunes, just this last weekend. I only managed to get down there in the, Sunday afternoon because I was all flued up. So, yeah, there is a lot of traffic and there is a lot of work to be done there. So, if we could, and also too with the signage, if there could be better communication with the voluntary groups, like Green Bay Coastal Care Trust or Forest and Bird or the Ferry Turn Trust or different other groups, to run the proposed signage past these people to get some feedback from them. And also because people are driving onto the beach at Tip Road, the signs really need to be able to be read from moving vehicles at moving vehicle pace, because they don't stop, they just come into the car park, they put it into 4-wheel drive and just drive onto the beach. And a sign which is sort of A4 size really doesn't really cut it. There's some very good signage on Ruakaka, the District Council signs, red signs, that can be seen about 1 kilometre away. They're very effective. There's a photograph of what happened to one of those signs on sort of about the 3rd photograph. So, there is good signage, but we need to, it would be better for the signage to be more resilient against, activities of people that are determined to take the signs down. That's really about, and also too, with regards to, like the rest of the bylaw and the area in front of the camping ground at Urititi, as long as the bylaw conforms with the Dog Control Act in terms of public safety and health and safety, because, I've been rushed by, quite big dogs, and if I hadn't had something substantial in my hand, I could have been mauled. So if that's how a dog is going to respond to an adult, you know, that's, we really need to be looking after the children and visitors. And that's, any questions?
Okay. Thanks, David. While the councillors are thinking there, David, one of the comments that you made in there was about signage. How often is the signage replaced after it's been knocked over? How quickly?
Well, the signs haven't been replaced at Tip Road. Like that, they've been down for over a year. And, you know, they're set into concrete, a block of, 5 by 5 or 4 by 4 or 2 pieces, and they just get smashed. You know, a truck, like 300 horsepower and a 4-wheel drive with a set of bull bars does a lot of damage. And there's kind of a culture around there which is kind of quite lawless, really, and it would be useful to get on top of that. And another way of that, by taming the Tip Road car park, if we could have sort of a little bit more upmarket feel to the place. Maybe have a cafe there or have it nicely landscaped with barbecue area and that sort of thing. So that there's people around to just keep an eye on the place that have some that have got some involvement in that area. That's a couple of ideas, but the signs remain down for a long time. That's one of the reasons people continue to take their dogs down, because they say, we didn't see any signs.
Appreciate it, David. Councillor Cooper's got a question.
Quickly, just very quickly, David, do you think a dedicated 4-wheel drive area would be
This is
helpful?
about dogs, not 4-wheel drives.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and it's good of you to point that out, but David's mentioned that dogs arrive in vehicles, so do you think if a 4-wheel drive dedicated area would help the problem?
I'm not really sure. It's possible, but the 4-wheel drive, the people taking their 4-wheel drives down there, they don't like being restricted. Even if you did set an area aside for them, they'd probably still go outside that and smash the surrounding area.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions, David? Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Appreciate you coming in, and thank you for the handout as well and the pictures, eh?
That's right.
Thank you very much. Our next submitter. Well done. You managed to find a car park. I hear there was issues. Come on up. Yep. Your submission's on page 51. Fine. Yeah, we try and encourage the councillors, encourage the submitters, so that not to read your submission. We've already read it. We've got it in front of us, but talk to it.
Yeah, great.
So you got 5
So I'm not going to read the submission. I trust you have read it. Yep. I'm really pleased that you've read it because I've put some time and thought into it.
Absolutely.
And my dog, as you would have noticed, added a postscript, which is also very, very important. So I will just briefly resume that. So I'm Yanenka, and I have a dog, Bonnie. You've read my submission, so you'll just let me recap the main points I made in it. Having a dog allows me to live an independent life. My husband died it's over 5 years ago now, and I don't think I could have continued living in my house without someone there for me, who not only protects me at night, but makes sure I get up in the morning, takes me for walks, makes sure I feed the chooks, makes sure that life is more or less in order. And when I speak for myself in that role, I probably speak for thousands of people in Whangarei who have dogs who fill similar functions. I'm not representing any of them, but if they were here, they would probably say much the same things as I am. Our dogs look after us intensely. That was my first point. My second point is that they have health needs, and they're slightly different than ours. My legs are old, hers aren't, and there's 4 of them, and they're very vigorous. She likes to walk with me. She's not a wild dog, but we have a different pace. She likes to sniff around the corners and run back and then make sure I'm okay. And so we need areas where we can do this, both for her health and mine. And again, I'm not just speaking for me and Bonnie. There's a lot of people in similar situations. So I'm encouraging the council to look very actively at both maintaining and extending off-leash walking areas. You're more capable than I am of finding where they are. You've got some of them already slightly highlighted in your plans, and I've kind of talked about a few, but the most important thing is that they should exist. I also, in my submission, said it was great that the council had already created what I would call a seminal dog park and a little tiny off-campus shoot of it. It's a great beginning. However, if all the dogs in Whangarei were to come to that dog park, we would have absolute chaos. Yeah, they wouldn't fit. It would be unsanitary, it'd be unsafe, and it'd be dangerous. So it's only the beginnings of an answer. And one of the things I suggested is you might like to consider that area between the dog park and the stream that runs down there. And I gave the example of the groins in Christchurch. And I hope some of you will have looked that up, because it's a fabulous dog park. It's got picnic areas for kids with dogs, it's got agility spaces, it's got a cut to the stream where the dogs can have a wet play area. It's got a long, long walk where, yes, they can meet other dogs, but they're not overcrowded by other dogs all the time. Christchurch is a bigger city than we are, but it has a lot of dog parks, a lot. We're not a small city. We're not a small city. And it's a tourist attraction in Christchurch. It's definitely one of the things that people are proud of. We could be proud of something similar. We've probably got most of the big building things that are needed in there, you know, like the tables and chairs, because you don't need a lot of those. We do need more fences, you know, big runs. There's a lovely area there, I've kind of walked it, where there's kind of little mini islands across the stream where you could actually cut off a fabulous wet area. I didn't try and draw you plans because you've got people who can do that far better than me. Yeah, but I'm just throwing you the suggestion. So yes, but there's other places you could develop. Mayor Park, you know, use your imaginations. Just do it. Those are the main things I wanted to put in my submission. To add to those, you know, last week I think I paid my dog registration. I think it went up to $102 from somewhere 75, 80. It was a big jump. And I thought to myself, what do I actually get from it? I get that little skinny bit of plastic, that's the tag, which is handy. I know that the tag carries administration with it, so there's some hours of clerical work that go with that. I acknowledge that. But I suspect that most of them, and there's a bit of maintenance of the little dog park, but most of the money goes on stray dogs and pound. And while I've got a good social conscience and I'm really prepared to kind of think about those who have greater needs than my dog, and subsidise them to some extent, I think it's, you know, there's not just me. There's, again, these thousands who are paying dog registration. And not only that, I pay rates, and I pay them on time. And so, you know, we are supporting the city, and we're asking the city to support us. Most of the dogs that you probably have problems with are dogs that, I would say, evidence shows that most dogs that are overbound at home, not exercised enough, are the ones that break out. They're the ones that create aggressive problems, etc., etc. A well-exercised, healthy dog who walks with other people and owners and other dogs is less likely to cause trouble. I'm not saying it's perfect, just very less likely. I also acknowledge that there are other kinds of needs. You know, we look at the kiwi protection, we're looking at a lot of other things. Good. You know, it's a matter of balance and looking at things together. With respect to all of us, I would say that we're probably the biggest menace to Kiwis in this country because if we've destroyed their natural habitats and put our buildings. And the next one's probably opossums, rats and cats. Dogs, yeah, but minimal, truly minimal in that kind of sphere. But again, it's about checks and balances, yeah? Our ancestors, all our ancestors, domesticated dogs thousands of years ago. They've served us, they've looked after us, they've cared for us, they work with us and for us. I think we owe them. And that's the end of my submission, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Yannicka. I appreciate you coming in and asking or making a submission to us. Councillor Olsen's got a question there.
You do. What breed is Bonnie, please?
Bonnie, she's a lab cattle dog cross.
I'm glad to see that Bonnie's quite happy to be put on a lead if necessary.
Well, she is very happy to be put on a lead. But if I was to only walk her on a lead, two really bad things would happen. She wouldn't get enough exercise. And I'm suffering very slightly from polymyalgia, and my arms will probably get kind of really unbearable. But she can walk on a leash now because I give her exercise off leash. And look, most dog owners do. Yeah. I meet a lot of dogs who are walking casually with their owners who are disciplined.
Yannicka, with your submission, you did highlight a few other things. I just want to clarify one. You highlighted about good dog owners. And do you think good dog owners should be discounted or done a different way than bad dog owners?
Just give us the good walking areas and we'll feel discounted.
Okay, thank you. Just needed clarification on that, that's all.
Well, I mean, I don't mind a discount. I'm not going to knock it. But what I'm saying is I want to know that my registration fee is really working, not only for other people's dogs, but for, our well-behaved ones.
As there are no other questions for you, Yannicka, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. You spending
It's
time.
my pleasure. And please, please, please take it on board.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And say hello to Bonnie on the way out.
I will. I will.
Our next submitter is Will Monk. Will, come on up. Will, you've got 5 minutes, so try and leave a bit of time for the questions to be asked. I noticed in your submission you basically just said you were going to come in and talk, so we're happy to hear from you.
Kia ora, thank you. I did an oral submission when they did it at the library here earlier. Basically it's just concerning where you're allowed to lead your dog with off the leash. I live in Tikipunga. The three places that I go to, Tikipunga Sports Park and Mere Park and Waro at Hikurangi. In my previous submission, has it gone off? I said I was happy with the way it all was. I think it's a really good balance that's been there for a long time and seems to suit everybody, the dog owners, walkers, and the general public. The Tikipunga sports field is the one that you need to be most careful of. Obviously, it's very sensible that you don't have dogs on sports fields where children are playing, and also at Mere Park, obviously you don't go over the river to where there's kiwis up in the hills there. So everything seems very sensible to me. So at Tiki, which is our main place, there's a lovely walkway that was put in last year. It's really nice. It's just designed for people to wander around the edge of the park, and there's lots and lots of dog owners take their dogs around there, leashed and unleashed. I've got 2 dogs, a small one, which is no trouble at all with a leash, and a medium-sized dog, which I, as an elderly bloke with arthritis, find very difficult to control on a lead. She's a really well-trained dog, gentle, submissive, obedient to commands, and she is no trouble off the leash. And so we go right around the sports field, being very careful not to go onto the parks. I always have bags to take away the feces, not only mine but those of other people. I think the people who don't pick up their dog doings are the ones who won't take any notice of rules anyway. So I think that it'll be counterproductive. They'll still be going around there and their dogs will be crapping away, and there won't be people like me to pick it up. basically, if I can't take my dog around there off leash, I'm not able to take it. So I'll be restricted to the few sort of just grassy areas, which is a different thing for dogs altogether. It's for people who like to throw their balls and the dogs run and pick them up. That's not what most dogs want to do. The young, vigorous ones want to, but dogs are creatures of the nose, and they like to go on an adventure around an ongoing track and see what the next smell is. So that's what we do very happily, and we have been doing so for seven years or so. And so my plea is that the existing very good balance between parties be retained. Thank you.
Will, is there any questions for Will, councillors? Well, you've highlighted about good dog owners, so I just want to clarify, do you think that good dog owners should get discounts or should just get better, as been suggested previously, just to get better parks for the dogs?
I didn't hear the previous speaker, but I'm quite happy with the fees as they are. I don't mind paying the fees for my dogs, and the facilities, the places, the parks that are there, I'm very happy with as well.
Cool. No, thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate the submission. No other questions? No other questions? Thank you, Will. Thank you for taking the time to come, and we appreciate it.
Thank you for your ears.
Yeah. Our next submitter is James. James's submission's on page 64. James, you're no stranger to the chamber as well. You know it quite well. You've got 5 minutes. Allow question times. Go for it.
Kia ora koutou. Yeah, first time in these chambers, but it's an exciting moment, so thank you. But I must disclose that I don't own a dog, never have, and I thought I never will, but my kids have got different ideas, so that's a whole other story. But it's, why am I motivated to be here today? And that's because of my kids. And the reason I'm here for the kids is so that they can grow up in an environment that's alive and nourished by nature. And so I haven't done well at that at late, and the reason being is that on my watch, I've seen kiwi die, and we've seen kiwi leave areas. And so many people I've spoken to know of kiwis that used to be in their area. Like 20 years ago, we used to hear kiwi. We used to hear kiwi, and this is a common story. So it's on my watch that this has happened, and that's just not my watch, that's everyone's watch. So that's the core of why I'm here today. Dogs are uncontrolled, when they're uncontrolled or untrained, they easily kill birds. And our kiwi especially are very vulnerable because of the reasons we know. They don't fly, they can't escape. And so a lot of our birds are like that. And one that's in the limelight now is the mātuku, or the bittern, which is critically endangered. And if you know what critically endangered means, that means the same category as the kakapo. And so we're lucky to have a strong population, but small, at Whangarei Heads. But the reason we've got that is because of the work that so many conservation people and volunteers in particular have been controlling stoats, rats, cats, but dogs are an ongoing issue. And so that is what we're trying to address and work through. So so who am I? Well, that's a big question, actually. If anyone can help, that'd be great. But yeah, so Whangarei Heads Land Care Forum, we've been active since 2000, and it's a platform set up to help landowners and land care groups to create action on the ground. And this has been a big stimulus for this control work that's been happening, both for dogs, with education, but also with the stoats, cats and rats, which are crucial in saving our species. But the three things that are really important with that education is walking dogs on a lead, securing and fencing and containing dogs, and training, obedience training. So, Whangarei Heads Land Care Forum want to work with Whangarei District Council in respect of protection of wildlife and related to education around dogs. And at the last, when was it, 24th of April, the council meeting, it was stated that the council can participate in a wider role in respect to the protection of wildlife and in particular the education of the public in respect of these issues. So that's in the minutes, attachment 1, 3.62. God, that makes me sound good, eh? So we 100% support what the council are proposing or have outlined, and we support the inclusion of the information sent out to dog owners when they register their dogs, and I think we've seen a slippery slope of that information not including a lot of information about the wildlife and the impact dogs have, and we just see that as really important. We're seeing lots of new people moving into the area. That's the development that's happening, but it comes at a cost, and one of these costs is these people coming in with dogs and just not knowing what they can and can't do. So that education is just critical. We also support the council's dog enforcement officers when they are picking up dogs out at Whangarei Heads, and support the dogs on the leash in council controlled public spaces, and support the requirements for dogs on beach and foreshore areas as detailed. We would like to work with council to promote the provision of a wildlife safe dog exercise area at Whangarei Heads where dog owners can be sure that their dog can be off lead without risk of, well, the kiwi, the bittern and other native species. We would like to work with the council on these initiatives and have ideas and things up our sleeves, but need the support or the advice or help to kind of with that education. So thank you for your time today, and yeah, the mahi that you guys are doing.
Well done. Thank you, James. Appreciate the time coming in. We've got a couple of councillors got questions. Councillor Holmes there,
Thank you,
of course, from the Bream Bay area. No, Whangarei Heads area.
Not Bream Bay at all. No, that's my next. We're taking that over next.
You're taking that over next. Excellent.
Yeah. James, thank you. Great work that you do. So my question really is, if you're suggesting a wildlife safe dog exercise area, have you got any ideas where that could be?
I don't want to preempt that question, but there are council-owned, or as I understand, council-owned estate that's out there that could be quite ideal in a sort of residential area. So we've kind of looked at those with a loose eyes, but yeah, we kind of see that as something that would need to be worked through in a conversation rather than trying to.
But you've got an idea where it could be. So where do you think it could be?
McLeod's Bay is a really good, a big populace, and yeah.
So opposite the fire station, is that what you're thinking?
I think that's probably got other values, but next to the hall, community hall. So there's a big, I think it's the old horse block they call it, I think, yeah. So, thanks.
And Councillor Peters.
Thanks, James. The informing and educating dog owners, have you got any, especially new dog owners that you've mentioned, have you got any idea about who should actually do that and whether it should be in person? And yeah, so how would that, have you got some ideas about how that could happen?
Yeah, a good question. And I think in the past when the dogs are registered, that there's information that goes out about what is required of them as a dog owner, and I think it should be part of that. So that's one part of it. We've actually run some dog workshops out at Whangarei Heads with a retired vet and had amazing success with that, with people who are interested coming in and buying into that, workshop. So that in-person conversation, I think, is really powerful, and those people who have been on that kind of training go out and talk to others in the community, so it's really powerful way of getting that information out there.
So do you think that all new people should actually have someone talk to them who have dogs who come to the area, rather than just paper sent out?
It's a big task. It'd be lovely to think that, but yeah, what I see, because you've got holiday owners, you know, people who are up here on holiday, you can't communicate with every dog owner. So it's, but the council has opportunity as they send out that registration. I think it's every year. I might be wrong, but that information can be contained, and signage, and there's other ways of communicating it. And it's a particularly special area out there, but I don't want to be just advocating that. I think if we are to do what we need to do on this watch, then we can be doing it in other areas as well, I think.
Would your group be open to working with our dog control people to put something together that's effective?
Absolutely. But I'm nervous that 20 years ago or so that this was undertaken, and the community put a lot of work into it, but then over time that got phased out and then it rolled on. And so it's important that if that work happens from the community, which we'd be willing to do, that it actually gets implemented. But the whole concept is that we're sort of wanting to open the dialogue between council and the forum and others who are working in this space, the conservation space. So, thanks.
Thanks, James. Appreciate the answers there. Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just call me crazy, maybe.
We all are. We generally do. Councillors.
But, there's huge growth out in that area. You've got lots of people moving in. Is there any way that your organisation could work with the real estate agents and have a little predetermined little note saying, welcome to the area, but, if you own a dog, this is what we would expect. Something like that. Just drop them into the real estate agents around town and let them dish them out.
Yeah, that's a great idea, but I think it's getting those real estate agents on board. There's one thing about having the leaflet, but there's another about actually advocating for it. So, I'm all about spending time in a space where you're effective, so that would be a good way of doing it, I think. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. No other questions for you there, James. Thank you for taking the time to come in. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank you all.
Keep up the good work. Our next submitter is Melissa. Melissa's on page 63. Melissa, just so you understand, you don't know the blurb that I said before. You've got 5 minutes. Don't try and read your submission. We've got your submission in front of us.
Yes.
We have read it. The key is highlight anything which you specifically want to cover off it, and allow time for the councillors to ask questions.
I will.
Okay. Over to you.
Kia ora, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Before I start, I just wanted to comment. I think your suggestion with the real estate agents is excellent. And I also think that in terms of McLeod's Bay, that it's really important. We've got 5 residents in the Ratepayers Association, so it's really important that we consult and engage because, and have a sort of general perspective on that. I just wanted to give a little background about myself. I moved to Ocean Beach, Whangarei Heads, about 19 years ago, and our property backs onto the Breamhead Scenic Reserve. And when I shifted here, I arrived with my partner and my wonderful dog, Henry, who is a standard schnauzer. And when I arrived at that time, I thought I could take my dog wherever I wanted and do whatever I wanted, and was quite surprised when I learned that that was not the case. And it was only after getting involved in local conservation issues that I learned to appreciate and understand why it is so important not to have dogs in a high biodiversity in a conservation area, especially where I live. And it is now well understood that dogs do have a negative impact on some of our native species, not just through predation, but disturbance. And disturbances by dogs can cause ground nesting and other birds to leave their nests, loss of clutches and broods, disrupt feeding, migratory issues, a whole range of things. So when Henry passed, we decided not to get another dog for those reasons. So it's very important that, especially as our population grows, and we are in a very quick, high-growing area, and dog ownership is and will increase, that we have good information alongside dog management, rules and bylaws, and why dog management is so important in the Whangarei District as a whole, but especially in areas where we live. And around the issue of disturbances, because I believe that a lot of dog owners and the general public don't really understand much about the impacts of disturbances of dogs, even on leash. So I think that's really important. Equally important is enforcement of the policies and bylaws, and I think this is an area that needs improvement. It is alarming how many posts we have on social media where dogs are wandering, they've gone missing, they're off-leash in prohibited areas. Yeah, so there's been increasing issues with not collecting dog feces. So I'm wondering if more resources will be put into enforcement, because it is really important that to have bylaws, you need that enforcement and/or education alongside of it. So I would encourage council to liaise again with the local residents, ratepayers associations, and community organizations to work how we can work better together on both education and enforcement. In particular, I just wanted to talk to, which is my submission about the dogs off leash at Urquharts Bay. So again, that ties into the conservation area. And I don't know if anyone's been out to that area, but that particular strip on high tide, there's basically no area for dogs to be off leash. It is also a special area. We have a number of birds that are permanent residents and nesting, and we're starting to get more birds. We had some spoonbills there the other day and some Caspian terns for the first time I have ever seen, so I was very excited. But that area there is so busy. We have a growing population. We have a lot of visitors and tourism. We have a lot of walkers. It's part of the Tiaroa Trail, so we get over 1,000 plus people walking on that route every year doing the TA walk. There's a lot of families that use that area. There's very small bits of grass just up on the hillside, and it's usually full in the summertime because that's a safe place to bring children and it's a safe place to go swimming. So that particular area, to me, it doesn't make any sense why we would want to encourage dogs to be off leash, and it also backs on to the Breamhead Scenic Reserve. So those are my thoughts on that particular issue of the submission of your proposed changes. And the other thing I'm very confused about, and it doesn't make any sense to me, is your proposal to include that almost everyone in the Whangarei Heads urban area will be within a 10 to 15 minute walk of an off-leash area. That's really hard to define. We all walk different speeds, so how are you defining 10 to 15 minutes? I mean, you'd be better off doing a distance, but I still don't support the proposal anyways. There are a number of areas within the Whangarei District where having dogs off leash, as I mentioned above, wouldn't be appropriate and or problematic. So I think by creating that criteria, you're going to be creating yourselves a whole range of other issues. And I'm wondering if council has the same criteria for off-leash areas for children, also known as playgrounds. And if not, if you have it for dogs, why not have it for children? So again, it just is problematic. I just wanted to highlight again in my submission that wetlands are really important, and thank you for including that in your changes. But I think it's important to identify those wetlands. The NRC have a map, and you could liaise with them and possibly linking to a map of wetland areas. And also the mention of kiwi again is important, but there's a lot of other birds that are threatened, critically endangered, that should be referenced to as well. So I just wanted to include that, and that's all I have to say today. Thank you.
Appreciate your time, Melissa. I have Councillor Cooper who would like to ask you a question.
Thank you, Melissa. We've seen you in the chambers before, in the building before, haven't we? You're heavily involved in the ratepayers scene. Great, absolutely great. What would your ratepayer group say if, because Whangarei Heads is such a environmentally significant area, we introduced a targeted rate to increase the response of Armour Guard and to increase the consequences of a bylaw, so effectively enforcing the bylaw to a higher degree because of the higher environmental impacts out there?
I think targeted rates can work well in certain circumstances, but I think at the moment with the huge rate increases that are being put through, any increase to residents will not be well received. We also play quite a bit of a targeted rate towards predator control, and that goes to those organizations. So I personally don't think that would be well received, adding extra cost onto residents and ratepayers. I believe in a user pay system, and I think having a dog is a privilege. It's not a right. And I think part of that ownership should include costs that cover enforcement and education. And I know that's something that is challenging for you as well to keep increasing, but the onus should really come back on the dog owners and payment in that respect.
Okay. No, there's a little bit of a follow-up because we're having a great, this is good. I think you represent the ratepayers, so you're getting both sides of the story, aren't you? You're also an environmentalist. If I guess the question is, we charge the dog owners, the problem is we've got so many dog owners who don't register and don't pay. So what would you suggest? I guess if we can't do a targeted rate, perhaps I'm getting into an argument that's not so good.
You are definitely straying away from the topic of the dog. Can we keep the questions, please, to the dog bylaw?
I think it's an important. I think you're raising an important point, but I do think that if you turn around and say, well, dogs aren't being registered, so therefore we can't take it from them, I would disagree and say that you should be working harder to get it from the dog owners because they have a responsibility to contribute to costs associated with dog ownership.
I guess that costs money though, doesn't it? So, yeah.
Absolutely, and ratepayers are struggling at the moment just to pay rates. So.
Tell me about it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cooper, for that. We're going to now move on to Councillor Holmes, and hopefully he's more well behaved.
Oh, me, always, Your Worship. Thank you, and Melissa, good to see you again. Thank you. And just before, I have a question, but before I just comment on Councillor Cooper's diatribe.
Keep focusing on the
heads off, indeed, full of extraordinary people, and not just dogs. Melissa, the Urquharts Bay bit that you talk about particularly, so obviously you've got the road and you've got houses really behind the road, and then you come on to Busby Head down the end there. So two questions really. Do you not think that it's possible, given the kind of natural constraint of the road and then the houses, to have off-leash area there safely without impinging on Busby Head and smugglers and all the rest of it, which is clearly a very special area?
No. I think just in simple terms, I think one, you're only limited to taking your dog when it's not high tide. It's such a small area. High tide, it wouldn't even be possible, I think, to have a dog off leash. So you limit it with time, and obviously tides are changing continuously. So people who don't know the area, unless they show up and it's high tide, I mean, it's just fraught with all sorts of issues. It's such a small area, but there are birds that are still in that area, and because it's such a very confined space, you're going to have issues with disturbance for sure. There's a pair of oyster catchers that have been there forever, and they've managed to sort of just get on the edge of the road, and that's their little place, and they've been there for a long time. In terms of Busby Head, the other thing is dog control. Like, how do you monitor and enforce that? So someone has a dog off the leash, their interpretation of control might be quite different to my interpretation of control. So their dog could end up doing something quite different to another dog. It's just fraught with all sorts of issues and concerns. And also, it is such a busy area. We have no parking now for the tourists and the walkers and the boaties and the yachties and the paddleboarders. And so there's a whole issue of parking as well, which needs to come into this. So if we encourage more people to come to that small little area, how are you going to accommodate that?
So my second question, so if you think Urquharts should be off the table, you'll know that there is also a strong push for an off-leash area in the heads. So people do want to walk their dogs off-leash. Where would you suggest we put in the plan instead?
Well, we have an off-leash area at Ocean Beach, and so in the summertime they can come, I think it's before 9 and after 5, so there already is an area. And in the wintertime, like this long weekend, it was so busy. I think when I went down to the beach, there was 30 dogs on the beach. So we already haven't, and we do have people that come a distance to come to Ocean Beach to take their dogs off the leash, and ongoing. It'll be interesting to see in the future what impact that's going to have on us. But so there is that area. Urquharts Bay is definitely, I would just highly not recommend that is included at all for all the reasons I've stated. Yeah.
Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate the time you coming to do this. I'm just checking with no other questions. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And as you can tell by as it's getting later in the day, some of the councillors are starting to become a bit rogue. So thank you for being patient with us.
Ken's not rogue.
Our next submitter is Amanda Tate. Amanda's submission is on page 59. Amanda, you've got 5 minutes. We encourage you not to read it because we've got it here in front of us. Highlight the points, try and allow some time for the councillors to ask questions.
Certainly. Kia ora koutou. I'm Mandy Tate and I'm a resident of Urquharts Bay, and that's what I'd like to talk to this afternoon, is about the proposed bylaw. I'm going to repeat a lot of the comments that Melissa has already made, and also comments that Councillor Holmes has already made. I am a member of the Urquharts Bay Association. I'm also on the Education Committee of the Breamhead Conservation Trust, although I'm not representing either of those organisations formally. I hope not to repeat too much of what Melissa said, but I think it's very important to reiterate what she was saying about the geography of Urquharts Bay, and I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with it. It's approximately 1.1 kilometres long. It's a narrow road, one way in many places, culminating at the end of a car park with a capacity of about 30 vehicles, I would say. It's become, as Melissa has indicated, a lot busier over the years. A lot of people enjoy visiting the Breamhead Te Whara Scenic Reserve and doing the walk, a number of walks, the Te Araroa trail users. But another thing that perhaps people may not be aware of or haven't thought of is fishing people, of which I am one. There is one official boat ramp in Urquharts Bay, that 3 other areas that people use. And I would say in the summer certainly, although this last weekend is also an indication, in the middle of winter, there is not a car park to be had in the car park at the end of the bay or along the road at all by 8:30 in the morning. If you're thinking of a vehicle similar to the vehicle that my husband and I use to launch and retrieve our boat, it's a ute, and the boat probably an overall measurement of 10 metres perhaps, and there's at least a dozen of those at any time. That's a lot of parking space. So they're jammed everywhere. The road becomes even more narrow. They're perched on the edge of the road on the rock wall side. They're also on lawns. It's chaotic. I've mentioned the Bream Bay Reserve. There's very few areas of grass for actually parking. In addition to people who would perhaps potentially bring their dogs to walk, we've also got, obviously, the day use people, the Te Araroa trail walking people. We've got fishing people who park on the bay and walk across to the reserve to fish off the rocks. Lots of those. They start about 4 a.m, their cars start trundling down the road. Plus, of course, there's the local residents and visitors. As Melissa also said, dog walking would be very tide dependent. High tide, there's no chance of walking anywhere except on the very busy road. It's crazy. I try and walk grandchildren down there and you just can't do it. It's just too busy and too dangerous. Certainly not off leash for a dog. At low tide, a lot of the ground is quite rocky with oyster shells and things, which is not really conducive to dogs' paws. Plus, there's only about 3 probably areas of sand, which are very popular for picnickers, families, little ones swimming, that type of thing as well. There are no rubbish bins at the beach, which generally works well. People are asked to take their rubbish home, but we just wonder with visitors whether they'd respect that rule and pick up their dog waste and take it home to be disposed of through their rubbish collection. We have about 25 dogs resident in Urquharts Bay, plus a number of people who own batches who come at holiday times, weekends and so on, and bring their dog. So there's a lot of dogs already. I'm not against dogs per se. We were exactly the same position as Melissa and her partner. We owned a dog. We decided not to replace her when she passed away. The biggest part of my submission really is the wildlife. Passionate about the scenic reserve. It's absolutely amazing. Kiwi obviously have been a huge introduction. We're no longer releasing kiwi on that reserve now. It's been so successful. But also the North Island robin has been introduced. The whitehead and the grey-faced petrel has self-introduced. The issue would be if a dog got into that reserve. It's not just the predatory nature of a dog, which is innate, but as Melissa indicated, it's the disturbance. Sometimes we do see people walking their dog in the reserve when they're strictly prohibited for that very reason. I do try and reason with them, but with varying success. Because no dogs are allowed there, and to allow propose an off-leash area in an area adjacent to a reserve seems a little short-sighted in my opinion. The other thing Melissa also mentioned, the oyster catchers, and I've checked on the dock status of oyster catchers. They are deemed to be recovering. So they were endangered, but they are recovering. And the dock advice on their website around dogs is if you have a dog at the area and you discover that there are oyster catchers also there, put the dog on the lead and lead it away, is their advice. And we're also very pleased to see spoonbills have suddenly appeared in the bay as well, which is quite unique. So we have a lot of compelling reasons, I feel, that Urquharts is not suitable geographically or from a conservation point of view to be an off-leash area. Thank you for your time.
Well done, Amanda, and thank you for taking the time to come in.
Pleasure.
Any questions? Yes, Councillor Holmes. I was going to say this is probably getting Councillor Holmes' area. Councillor Holmes, you've got a question.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you again. So, the question really is: are you proposing that Urquhart should be dog-free completely, or just dogs on a leash? I mean, clearly, I get the message very strongly. You're against off-leash, but would you like to see dogs off that area altogether?
No, I think that's probably too strong, as long as they're on a lead. Definitely. As I say, we have at least 25 dogs that are resident in the bay, and the vast majority of those dog owners make sure their dogs are under control at all times and respect the wildlife that is there.
So you think primarily the issue is with holiday makers and weekenders rather than the locals?
Possibly, yes. People that perhaps don't know, and again, that would be the issue if the proposal went ahead and we had people from outside the area bringing their dog. They wouldn't perhaps be aware that cute little bird with the long beak is actually something that is recovering from being endangered, so we need to take care of them.
And the question I asked Melissa as well, so obviously we've got Ocean Beach, which is off-leash, but I mean there's some strong advocacy for another off-leash area. So if and obviously Ocean's right at the end of the road, quite a long drive for lots of people that live in the heads. Have you got any suggestions where else we could locate an off-leash area, if not Urquharts?
That's an excellent question, and I have given that a lot of thought. But we do have a lot of bird population. I'm thinking of a place like McLeod's, for example, which is larger geographically than Urquharts, better parking and facilities and so on. But I guess, they've got birds there too that they take care of and look out for the residents anyway. But yeah, where else? Good question. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Auckland.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for taking the time to come in. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Your comments have been received. No other questions for you. Yeah, thank you again.
Thank you.
Our next submitter is Ellie Smith. Ellie Smith is on her submissions on page 72.
I've got pretty pictures too.
I think Danielle's going to help you with those. So again, Ellie, you may have heard before, you've got 5 minutes. Please allow some time for the councillors to ask questions. Don't read your submission, speak to it.
Oh, cool. And I'm not going to probably even spend that long. Kia ora koutou, everybody. I'm Ellie Smith. I live at Urquharts Bay. I've lived there for 45 years. Own lots of dogs, have owned dogs over all that time, walk them every day. And I am really thankful for this initiative to find somewhere for us to exercise our dogs. At Urquharts Bay, I would have welcomed it at Urquharts Bay if it had been 10 years ago before we had the traffic issues. And I think you'll see all of my submission is actually about the traffic. I'm actually really scared that someone's going to get quite seriously hurt there. People are having to back their cars down in summer weather, where cars are parked on both sides of the road and turn into people's driveways. It is chaos, as you'll see from those photos there. But that is my main concern, is the traffic. I think it's really important that we have somewhere good to exercise our dogs and good to exercise them on the beach. And so I'm not saying not Urquharts Bay. I've got a solution, right? I think I go to Wellington every year with my dog, and what they do down there is they have lots of beaches that are you can walk your dog on, but they only have them for a small section of the beach. So we could have part of Urquharts Bay was a dog exercise area, very easy. You just put a post here, dog exercise area, and one there, and a place for your dog poop bags. Then you have a place at McLeod Bay the same, and a place at Taurakura, and a place at Paroa Bay. You know, we could have several. I don't see it would be a lot of admin extra or harder to control if you're coming all the way out to Urquharts Bay as dog management anyway. All those beaches would be on the way. It's only a matter of signs. And you could choose the places where the parking was good or there wasn't wildlife nesting necessarily, and you could ease the problem. We're a small bay. A lot of the heads is like that. We don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the parking, we don't have the roading, we don't have the roading maintenance. There's holes in the road and on the edge for one bay to handle it. So I'd say, be like Wellington, spread the load. You know, if one beach is full, you just go a couple of bays along to the next. Okay, so that is my submission. Quite
Thank you
simply.
very much.
You've heard the rest. I support all the rest as well, but that was my solution to it. So, questions?
No, I appreciate that. Councillors, is there any questions for Ellie?
Just a very quick one.
Councillor Cooper has a question for you.
We've had a submission today about people pulling signs out in the Bream Bay, Urakitty, Tip Road area, and the people just disrespect them and pull them out. Do you think the Whangarei Heads people are better behaved than the Bream Bay
Without
people?
a doubt.
Without a doubt, eh?
Without a doubt.
Okay.
I think Mandy was right.
I think what Councillor Cooper is asking in a roundabout way is, would the community look after the signs out there?
I'm sure. I think I didn't hear all of the previous submissions, but Mandy's right. Most of us are dog owners anyway. Most of us walk our dogs there anyway. It's just the influx of people, and don't want you to think that we don't like that. You know, like it's fantastic. Breamhead Reserve's awesome. It's lovely that all those people are coming and appreciating it, because then they'll support us spending money on it and fixing it and all of those things. It's not a negative thing. We just need to spread the load a bit in my world. And yes, we'll look after the signs.
Good on you. Just a little dig at Councillor Holmes. He always says you're so very good.
Anyway, Councillor Holmes, please don't do a right reply. Just
No, I've got a question. Well, thank you, and thank you for your submission. So would it be right to say most of the bogans come from Waipu?
We're the same though, aren't we? The same, don't we just
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you for your response. I appreciate that. Ellie, we've got one more here, Councillor Reid.
Ellie, do you think there would be anywhere suitable at Ocean Beach?
Oh, yes.
To set aside an area?
I do, yes, I do, definitely. It's a large beach. See, one of the things with the harbour beaches is they're quite narrow. They look nice and low, but nobody swims when it's low tide. You don't even take your dog out there because there's stingrays in the pools and all sorts of fishing tackle and stuff. So the beach is short and tucked right up against the road. You sit on the beach and someone's parking their car just behind your head. And Ocean Beach has the parking and has the space to handle it. Years ago, before there were any dog restrictions, we've always taken our dogs to the Ocean Beach, years and years ago. And we just went down one end, and then when the lifesavers eventually were there, we used to walk up and go for a swim and then walk back to our area with our dogs. It was quite easy.
Right, Ellie, that's it. Well done. Thank you very much for your submission.
Great, you're doing something, it's really good.
Thank you. The next submitter is Diane Fleming. Diane, your submission's on page 42. You've seen the process here. You've got 5 minutes. Councillor Harding, you're heading off, are you? Thank you very much. Anyway, Diane, you've got 5 minutes. Take your time. Your submission's on page 42 for the councillors, and we encourage you not to read it. Just speak to it.
Talofa everybody, my name is Diane and I'm a resident at Manu. I'm here to talk about an issue on online registration of dogs. I've had an issue that's come up with my daughter who's actually in an abusive relationship. She's got a protection order on her, and when she actually finished the relationship, she had the 2 dogs with her. We've built a compound on our property where she lives now. Her partner's parents said that the dogs were not allowed on their property. So it made sense to us. We built them a compound. They're safe, they're secure. After my daughter had them for like 10, 11 months on our property in this compound, we started getting visitors from the dog management saying that these dogs were barking and being a noise nuisance. I found it quite strange because someone is always home on our property, and we never saw these or heard these dogs at all. So I went down after my daughter said this happened to her a couple of times. I actually went to the animal management and I said to them, what's happening with these dogs? Where are these complaints coming from? Because I don't believe it is these dogs. We have other dogs in the valley and it could be any one of them. They then turned around and told me that my daughter's ex-partner had registered the dogs onto my property and that they didn't need to answer to us, only to him. So now we have this issue that my daughter now lives on a property with these 2 dogs, and anything that this guy can do to get to her, he does. She took the dog out the other day and he's actually heard about it. Now she's getting abusive phone calls to say, what are you doing out with my dogs? I went to the management, animal management, and said, how can somebody that does not live on a property register dogs to that property? And they had no answer. They told me they could not change it and that it was a lawyer thing. Now, for me, I don't believe when a woman's going through as much as she's going through that you guys would want her to be going to a lawyer to get this sort of stuff sorted out, and I'm sure you don't want to hear that he is now using this to abuse her. She should be allowed now to be able to take those dogs out in the community, restrained, and feel safe with it. Now she doesn't even want to take them out. So for me, I don't know what can be done. I know that you're a computer expert yourself. So I thought I actually wanted to come and talk about this issue because now it has just added to the abuse that she's now receiving.
Look, Diane, I want to say thank you for coming in and talking to us about this. The CE is writing notes at the moment, so he's going to investigate a bit further. It may be something that you may want to take offline with the staff. I know that Rainer's here as well, and he's very interested in dealing with it as well. So on that aside, around the dog bylaws and the processes and that, have you got any comments about that side of things? Because there's some of the parts that we can take offline, but I'm just more conscious of...
Yeah, no, sorry. I just really wanted to bring up this issue for her because it's just been ongoing, and now, like I said, she just doesn't know what to do. She doesn't want to take the dogs out and stuff. So I just wanted to highlight it really, that for my daughter this is happening. It could be happening for other women. And I mean, I've seen adoption dogs now when there is disputes to bring your dog to be safe and stuff like that. So for me, I do feel that it is becoming quite an issue, and it's something that maybe you guys can sort out within the animal management area instead of taking it to court, which we know costs money.
No, we appreciate you coming in and taking the time on that. Absolutely. Is Councillor Olsen, you've got a question?
I do, Your Worship.
Yeah.
Oh, dare I not ask a question? Whereabouts in Manu, may I
So
ask?
we're actually at Purakau Road, so we're off Pompelia Estate Drive.
Oh, yeah.
We've got about 40 acres, we're quite rural. And stuff, so we're sort of in a gully, like a valley and stuff, and that's why we were saying about the dog barking, that are you sure it's these dogs? You know, because in a valley, dog barking travels, you know, and stuff like that, so.
Thank you for coming in. Very
thank you.
No, I appreciate your time coming in. Thank you, Diane.
Awesome.
And look, thank you for raising it to our attention. It's these are the sort of things we do need to sort out and try and work out, iron out where the problems are coming from.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Councillors, that is our last submitted today. We do have a confidential item that we do need to cover off now. So